are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inspirational Legacy, Past, Present, and Future. My name is Alicia Magnus Lewis, and I am the Chief Strategy Officer at the Los Angeles Tribune. And it is such a pleasure to be here today with Roosevelt Williams and Brittany Miller that are joining us live from San Diego. They are part of Young Black in Business, the organization that Roosevelt is a founder of. And today we're back celebrating Black History Month, celebrating Black excellence, and hearing from leaders all across the culture that are really doing the work to have impact. They're working with youth, with women, with organizations to really shift and cultivate culture in a really distinct and unique way. So Roosevelt, we're so delighted to bring in our first guest today. You all are in for a treat, but Roosevelt, would love for you to say hi to our audience that's joining in today and share a little bit more about what you do with Young Black and in Business with Brittany.
Alicia, thank you very much. And hello, world. It's an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to have a partnership with Los Angeles Tribune. And we're parallel in our vision. You know, we believe in giving power to the people, and we believe in giving the voiceless a voice and to be able to magnify that. Here at Young Black in Business, we're all about providing educational, instructional, entrepreneurial content. I'm joined today by our Chief Marketing Officer, Brittany Miller. She is definitely the power behind the shield. But when you think about Young Black in Business, think about coming together, being enlightened, and providing a solution for a problem that makes a profit. Brittany?
Hi, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the program today. My name is Brittany Miller. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Young Black in Business. I've been working alongside Roosevelt since 2019. And one of the things I love about the organization is that we get to work with early and emerging entrepreneurs to help them get the exposure that they need. So this is a perfect partnership.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing more about the work that you do. And Roosevelt, you were out there this morning at the schools. Can you please share a little bit about what you were doing directly in the community today? And then we will go ahead and introduce our guest for today.
Absolutely. Today we were turning light bulbs into lasers. You know, I was at a middle school today, KIPP Adelante, which is a charter school, speaking to young adults about transformation versus metamorphing. And I shared with them, you can transform However, you can also transform back into where you came from. However, when you metamorph, there is no going back. The butterfly cannot return to the caterpillar. So today, turn these individuals from light bulbs into lasers, moving forward, proceeding, starting with a commitment, delivering with quality, and finishing with success. So it was a huge success today to turn these individuals into lasers, and now they're focused on creating more environmental justice and being amazing citizens.
Wow, that's so phenomenal. We're going to play a clip of what that experience was like for you a little bit later today. When we talk about transformation and when we talk about environmental justice, it's such a delight and honor to bring up our guest today, Kelley Kali. She's a native of LA. She has a degree in anthropology with a focus in archaeology, and she had a minor in film and classics. And she is an actress. She is the director of the phenomenal film Kemba, where she goes over and highlights the story of Kemba. And I'm going to allow her to share more of that experience today. But it is such a delight and an honor to be here with Kelley. Kemba is a film that aired on BET. It has been recognized and awarded. And Kelley, it is such a delight to be here with you today. I shared a brief bio about you, but I would love for you to share in your own words with our audience today more about who you are and how you navigated your journey to really decide and realize that the story, Kemba's story, and the story of so many young Black girls out there was one that you wanted to highlight, that you wanted to advocate for, and one that you wanted to bring more awareness to.
Well, good morning, Alicia. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Brittany, Roosevelt, and everyone watching. It's a privilege to be here and to speak about the work that we've been doing. So I began at Howard University with my degree, like you said, in anthropology and archaeology. But it was one day when I was out in the field that there was a film crew and they didn't understand the work that we were doing. And I ended up writing the script, formulating the questions without knowing. And that film went on to win all these awards. And I was like, wait a second. And so I started working at National Geographic Television and Film. And I knew that I wanted to do stories that had to do with social justice and really looking at our society and in the areas that people like to ignore. And I ended up going to the University of Southern California for my master's degree in film. And that's where I began to develop my voice in social justice storytelling. I don't have any particular genre I stick to, but whatever genre I'm doing, whether it be a dramedy, whether it be a biopic like Kemba, or even a genre film, it's psychological thrillers, they always have to have some underlying message that makes us all think. And so when Kemba came my way, I was pulled in because her story, it took place at Hampton University. I went to Howard University, so she went to an HBCU. This happened a long time before I went to school, so I had not heard of it, but she was dating the wrong guy. She did not know that he was a drug dealer, and he ended up getting killed. And because of our mandatory minimum sentencing laws and conspiracy laws, they were able to tack on his crimes to Kemba that dated back to when she was a minor in high school and didn't even know the man. And they can legally do that. And she got 24 and a half years in prison based off of crimes that he committed. And I had a friend growing up in a church. My dad was a pastor, her mother is a missionary. And she got caught up in a situation like that when we were going to college. She wasn't dating anyone, but she trusted a young deacon in our church who asked her to accept some packages over the summer to make some money before school. And one day the door got kicked in, and it was the feds, and they opened those packages and it was kilos of cocaine. So I ended up going to college that summer. She ended up going to federal prison, even though she had no prior offenses, just like Kemba. And they did not take into consideration her individual circumstances. And that's what mandatory minimum sentencing laws have a problem, because it takes away the discretionary of the judge to be able to really evaluate the individual. And so that's why I got involved with the story.
Thank you so much, Kelley, for sharing more about your background and how you got involved in the story. You're known as a director and a content creator who's really addressing critical issues within marginalized communities. And through filmmaking, you're creating a dialogue so that people are aware of what's going on to really facilitate change. As you have shared the story of Kemba, as you have gone to different events with Kemba and advocated right directly beside her, what is the message that you truly want people to know and be aware about when they engage with Kemba's story, the story of your friend, and so many others? And how can they actively share the awareness of it to continue to facilitate some of that change?
Well, what we want people to know, especially young people going into college where they are experiencing life for the first time, and they can make and will make several mistakes, is that there are laws out there that do not protect us. And us being groups of color primarily, now it affects everybody. So I don't want anyone thinking that they're exempt, but it tends to affect uh, the Black community, the Latin community, the Native American community by great gaps. And so just knowing the law, understanding mandatory minimum sentencing law. I know it's not fun. If you're not like in law school, you're not waking up like, let me go learn some mandatory minimum sentencing information. But it is important to know, especially if you have kids going to college, especially like it doesn't just by association. There are laws on the book that just by association, you can have a roommate who's doing things and you have no idea. And just because you live in that house, that means that you too can be tied up in those crimes. And that's something similar that happened to a character in the film named Michelle West, who we used the film when it released last year to lobby for her freedom because she was dating. She was in an abusive relationship and she was seeing this guy and she had a 10-year-old daughter. It wasn't his daughter, but he one day told her that someone had, done a service for him and they're coming to the house and go get some money and out of this place and pay for it. And so she didn't know what she was doing. I don't know what she thought. She probably thought it was a plumber or somebody that he had done something. But anyhow, just because she participated in that way, still not knowing what was going on, apparently the man was a hitman and had committed a crime. And she didn't know that. So then when it came down to they had all got caught and they gave a plea deal to her and all of them for 10 to 20 years. And she was like, I'm not taking that. I didn't do this. I got a 10-year-old daughter. I'm not leaving her. So she trusted in the justice system and actually took it to trial while the other two who actually committed the crime took the plea deal. And so she thought that she could fight this. And you still have a grieving family who's in the courtroom who lost somebody and they want to see someone pay the prosecutor, everybody. And so she was not, her individual circumstances coming from a domestic violence relationship where she was afraid of the man, none of that is taken into account. And she was given a double life sentence plus 50 years for a crime that she did not commit, never got to see her daughter again or hold her like she could if she was a free woman. And so Kimba, she protected Kimba when she was in prison, and Kimba promised her. And if you see the film, there's a promise that Kimba makes. Michelle gives her this golden cross and says to remember her because Michelle doesn't think she's getting out. And Kimba is like, I'm going to give this to you when we get you out of here. And Kimba has worked relentlessly for over 25 years since knowing her to bring attention to her case. And so they had pushed the Obama administration and she was denied clemency with the Obama administration. They pushed the Trump administration. She was denied clemency with the Trump administration. And then we were back with the Biden administration. And this is the difference now is that we have a movie. Kimba pushed and pushed and pushed to have a movie. She got it made by Moving Picture Institute and BET. So it's wonderful. I know I just saw you at the NAACP Image Awards, and it's important for organizations like that, like the NAACP, BET, to be supporting our voices, because otherwise, like these stories, like Michelle West, wouldn't be getting out. And so we were able to make this movie humanize the circumstances, because all people see are like numbers and statistics. They don't really put a human to these circumstances. And so we took it all around. We screened it at the U.S. Capitol, spoke to Congress members. We were on CNN, MSNBC. We were over 100 cities with an organization called Represent Justice that was supporting the film. And girl, listen, the last day that President Biden was in office, he granted Michelle West clemency with Marcus Garvey and Kemba a full pardon.
Yes.
And so it really matters, like what I was saying, for people to be aware of what the laws are, especially if you have kids going out into the world, or I mean, you as an individual, but also if you are a filmmaker like me, or a storyteller, or an artist, to really understand that you can make positive social change and impact through your arts. And you need to be very aware and intentional about what information you choose to put light on and to uplift and put all of your energy into, because it can have positive change and it could also have negative change. But you best believe that you are impacting people with every single bit of visual medium you put out onto a screen, because people, for whatever reason, trust the television, trust the big screen. So be one of the light workers, I say, and try to uplift people.
It's so key. It's so critical. I'm so happy you share that, Kelley, because storytelling has power. You can share history, but it can also advocate for change. And the more awareness that you can bring, and the more community that you can bring around a story and share that across as many platforms as you can, it really does make a difference. You know, Kemba, when she was first incarcerated, worked with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and they took a big part in helping her and supporting her through what she was going through. And she did serve 7 years of her sentence. The Delta community that at Howard came together to support her and share her story. And she came out. And through the film that you put together, that was aired on BET, that you galvanized so much support for, your film was recognized. But Kemba was pardoned this January, and Michelle West is now out of prison. But that
she walked free.
She walked free. I got chills saying that. But that is the power of storytelling. That is the power of advocacy. And that is why it's so important for individuals to share their stories, so that history doesn't repeat themselves, so that people have more awareness and education about what factors may be even going on that they may not be aware of, so that they can actually do something. And I still am getting chills just knowing and hearing that, you know, Michelle West is out of prison, but it's such a testament to the work that it is that you're doing. What kind of guidance or advice would you give to individuals that are creatives or that are storytellers and trying to figure out how and in what way can they actually share stories with you? What I think was so beautiful about how you brought the story of Kemba's life to life is that you took such care and delicacy in sharing her story, because Kemba is a real woman. Her story is a real story that many other women have gone through, to actually get her story out there in a way that still honors her and preserves her legacy, but also really galvanizes action around that.
Yeah, I was very delicate with her, because you can only imagine if somebody's coming in and telling your life story and it's not like the shiniest, prettiest story. But she wanted to use her experience to help to uplift other people and to be preventative, and to also give encouragement to those who are going through it. And so, yes, as a filmmaker, I had to be considerate of her. And one of the things that her and her family, because you know, people are still alive, the people we're depicting in the movie are still alive, and a lot of people don't want to relive that again. And so you got to be very delicate and remember that whatever film you're making can impact their lives for the rest of their lives. Film doesn't go away. We'll be able to find this movie anywhere for all of the future, hopefully, you know. But so you got to be delicate in that. And normally most directors wouldn't have the family on set, because it can be distracting, because you have to have some creative liberty. Everything can't be exact. And but you try to stay as true to the story. But and my producers were doing their job and trying to make sure that I had the opportunity to direct without any worry and having the family there. But I told Kimba I wanted her there because I wanted to do it right, and I wanted to make sure that the choices we were making were the correct choices. But and to Kimba's credit, she understood that there were some things that we just could not logistically depict exactly how it happened. So this is like, so what can we do to fictionalize that piece, but it still has truth in it, you know? So there's like there's an art to painting the truth when you're dealing with biopics. And so I did take that into consideration. And you were asking about what other artists can do. Like if they were to, you said to come to me, what was the question again?
Yeah, like what can other artists do when they're creating? Because you've been so intentional, right, about picking films that actually create a dialogue and are really marching towards positive change. So what can other artists do to really kind of continue to walk in your footsteps and the footsteps of so many others, but in that such intentional way?
I'm about to get real like woo woo on y'all, but like
woo-woo here.
Listen, it's what you feel.
Yeah.
You have got, I truly believe that we were all placed on this planet to uplift each other. We all have different gifts, and we all can either keep them to ourselves and not share them, or we could share them and help to uplift others in areas that they're not as strong as you are and you're not as strong as they are. And so I feel that when you were born with these gifts and you know what lights you up, you know what subjects get you going, and it doesn't have to be this serious. You could be a comedian or healing. They help when people have had a long week of work, I had a hard time, and you make someone laugh. You are actually raising their vibration and healing them. So you don't have to be like a serious advocate and do that type of work. That's just what I love, and that's what I care about. I feel like that's what I was born with. It's in my gut. It's like how you were saying, Alicia, how you had chills. That's what I get when a story comes to me and I'm like, I have to do this. You have to know your why. You have to understand your why. Why are you? Because making films is not easy. It's taxing. You got to work with people. You got to keep all these personalities going. It's a lot of work, and you need to remind yourself when you start to get exhausted, the why. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? What is my purpose? And you know your why. It's in here. It's in your tummy when you get excited about something. It's in you feel it. Your body responds and it tells you. So when you come across a story or a subject that you have been following and that you're into, maybe it's you that's supposed to be the one that sheds light onto it. Kind of like the work you're doing right now, Alicia. I know you're on set, you know? So it gets you going. You got to pay attention to that feeling that you have when something just lights you up. Now you're going to get tired. And that light doesn't always stay. That's why
the why is important.
That's why the why is
forward.
The why is the oil that's going to keep that fire burning in the night. Okay, you've got to know your why.
That's so wonderful. And I mean, like the what people do is important, but the why they do it is so much more, I believe, important, because their essence coming through, and it is what is sustaining for them when the days become challenging, when they are tough. What do you think overall? So recently, we were at the NAACP Image Awards this weekend. 668, the film produced by Tyler Perry with a fantastic cast that included Kerry Washington, won an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Motion Picture. 668 is a historical story about Black women, about women during the war that contributed to morale, and they were able to break feats and deliver mail. And they were underestimated, and the army didn't think that they were going to be able to succeed, yet they did. However, so many people did not know their story. They did not know about the battalion story. So what role do you think that going back in history can play in helping people understand where they're at right now, but also where they're going? Because it was such a mind shift for people that it was such a big part of history of the war, Second War, and no one really, I wouldn't say no one knew, but a lot of people today did not know about the story and the impact of these Black women.
Are we surprised though?
Yeah.
This was coming out of a time where Black women weren't being recognized. Black people weren't being recognized. I mean, you know, Black men and women fought in the war, fought for our country, fought for the freedom of so many people, and then came home to segregation, came home to be called something less than what they were. And so I'm not shocked that the story of the 688 was hidden from us for so long, but it goes back to what you had said before, Alicia, the importance, it hit me when you said it, of not repeating history. And so the only way that we can do that, because every day new people are born, every single day, every single minute, every single hour, and they don't know what happened yesterday. It's got to be taught. And so, and the best way to get through to people, because some people just don't respond in school. Some schools don't teach it. A lot of schools don't teach it. And so the way that we can get information to people about pieces of history that we want to preserve, that we want to honor, and that we don't want to repeat is through storytelling, filmmaking, television, paintings, music, all of that. That's our job as artists, is to lure you in with entertainment and then teach you. And I feel like that is something, that's why I say we need to be intentional with our work, with our art. And so I was so glad that they basically swept the NAACP Image Awards, because Kerry Washington won, and then they won for Best Movie. It's important to uplift stories like this so that more people can be like, wait, what was that? I didn't see that yet. Oh, what's that? Because when we are able to honor our voices and stories that weren't being told, it's so now, because a platform like the NAACP Image Awards recognized it, now that's going to get, you're talking about it on Los Angeles Tribune. It's going to reach other audiences so that now they can go watch it and go learn about our history. And to be careful about repeating, we got to be careful right now in the world. Look what's happening in Germany. Look what's happening here. Look what's happening in Poland. There's a lot of similar rhetoric that is happening now that was happening before Kristallnacht in 1938, I believe is when it really started, and all the way through the mid 40s. And so we've got to be aware. We've got to tell stories like this, like the 688. We've got to remember and remind people that was not long ago. That was yesterday. That's grandparent generation. And we've got to not repeat those atrocities. So many people were hurt and killed. And I mean, the atomic bomb was dropped. We don't want to go to that. We've got to, so it's important to remember. And I feel that our time capsules is storytelling and filmmaking and getting people connected to the hearts of history.
Yeah, getting people connected to the hearts of history. This program is called Inspirational Legacy, Past, Present, and Future. We started it last year, but it was such important when you think about legacy. It is the past and how it connects to today, but how it's creating that thread for the future and laying that pathway. 688 did definitely sweep at the NAACP Image Awards. Kerry Washington received an award. They also won an award for Best Ensemble. Ebony Obsidian won an award as well. But it was such an important perspective. We have someone here who joined us, and her name is MD Shield, and she said it was such an inspirational story. I had no clue, but creatives, right? Artists, there's so many ways to share story, to preserve history, and to also bring awareness. I even think too about social media, and going back to what you were saying earlier about when you're creating content and you're putting something out there, being intentional about it and understanding the power that content has, and even with social media now, it's kind of our modern day history book, right? You put a video out, it's out there, but it also has a lot of reach. So what are the stories that you're actually sharing? And it can be, laughter is good for the soul. It's healing when you're going through something, so many things, but different mediums can really support that storytelling. For you, Kelley, so Kemba came out last year. It's been recognized and nominated for awards. You and Kemba and the other individuals that you're collaborating for are continuously advocating for social justice, for awareness for women that have been impacted by domestic violence, that are part of the criminal system, and really for advocacy and reform. But what are other things that you're working on right now that you want people to be aware about, whether it's related to the film Kemba or other projects that you're working on?
Well, I just finished another project with the Oscar-nominated Gabourey Sidibe, and it's dealing with the housing insecurities that a lot of people are facing now. I can't say which network or what, but it should be out soon. And so that's a big and important topic, is housing insecurities, because like when I was growing up, my dad, you being a pastor, I never just grew up with the nucleus family, my mom, my dad, my brother, and I. We always had someone in our house, whether I was giving up my bed for someone to sleep in and I got to share with my brother, or somebody's on a couch with their kids. But there's just so many people who are displaced and need those communities to help uplift them as they get back on their feet. And so I grew up seeing this, and it's only increased, especially since the pandemic. And there's so many people that need help from our system, but our system is kind of like, you're chasing your tail. Like if you have a place, then you don't really get the assistance, but then you can't get the assistance if you don't have an address when you really need this. It's just this like cycle. And so it's bringing light to that, and for us to like bring some more reform to it, and find a way to help people who are chasing their tail and are needing the help. And then I'm also working on another project that's dealing with the development and mental health of young Black girls, into what are the microaggressions and impact in society on them that develops them into the stereotype of the angry Black woman. So what is it that we are doing as a society that is creating a hardened little girl? So it's like, there's some people don't just get to that. It's a defense mechanism. And so we've got doctors who have been putting actual research to this from, again, I can't really talk about it. We're not at a place where I can give a lot of information yet, but this is what I love about this, is that it's dealing with, if you speak to Black women, we've always said that, like, oh, well, Black women are at the bottom of the totem pole. I feel like you're overlooked, and that was all theory, it's all feelings, right? But now there are doctors who have been able to actually quantify that through these experiments and social experiments, and also surveys that can expose biases. And so indeed, from these scientific research, it's shown that Black women are chosen last in all types of circumstances. But that's what I've been working on, and I've got several other projects down the line as well, but those two are really close to my heart, and I think are really important, that help to bring all of us awareness, because we all are a society, and we all contribute to these things, whether we know it or not, and I think that when you're able to see this on the screen, you'll be able to take it home and say, oh, do I do that? And I'm talking about as Black women too, as Black people. It's not just like the other, we do it to ourselves too. It's everybody, it's everyone. And so we just need to be more gentle with each other, but sometimes we just need the information on how to be, and we don't realize.
That's so core. I mean, those are two phenomenal projects that you just shared, and we can see that you're so intentional about the work that you do. I mean, addressing housing insecurity, it is an experience that many go through, but bringing more awareness to it. And I think also, like you said this word earlier, humanizing that experience so that people can really understand and feel what people are going through is key. And then with this upcoming project that you're working on around Black women, I think actually bringing science into the fold is game changing, because I think people may think what they think, people may have lived experiences. Sometimes when you have a lived experience, you don't know that other people don't experience that because that's all you know. So you don't,
Right.
so until you know and understand
Yeah.
the tools and what you can do to address that
Yeah.
and think about it in a different way, it's challenging. So I love that you're sharing it for two perspectives, for the Black women, but also for society at large. I mean, microaggressions, let's be real, they're real.
Yeah.
They are subtle, they are jabs, they are real. But understanding and having the tools to understand, okay, that was a microaggression, or
Yeah.
maybe being gaslit, and then understanding what to do next about it is
Yeah.
huge. So, wow, I think that that's really important and can shift a lot of things for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Kelley, it's been amazing being here with you today. There's
It's a
so much
pleasure.
to talk about. Definitely want to have you back, but I would love for you to kind of share your closing remarks for our audience today. Whatever is on your heart that you really want to share with individuals before we say see you next time.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the opportunity, Alicia. And I just want to say, please look up Kimba Smith. Her story is phenomenal, and she is just one example of so many women that are overly sentenced or wrongfully incarcerated based off of first, sometimes nonviolent offenses. And this is something that needs to be known because it has increased something about like 400% since the early 90s or 80s. And so women's incarceration is going up. It's frightening, and we need to be more aware of it, and we need to learn these stories like Kimba's. The movie is on BET Plus. You can find it on Paramount Plus, and it's called Kimba, Kemba. And so if you watch that story, that'll give you an idea of some of the troubles that we're facing within our legal system that we need to adjust. And then you can go to representjustice.com, and we have our film Kimba on there, and there's instructions on how you can contact your local Congress members to help to push the momentum for mandatory minimum sentencing laws to be adjusted within your own state as well. So please do that. And if you have any questions for me that didn't get answered, you can find me on Instagram at I am Kelley, so Kelley, and last name Kali, Kali. I'd be happy to talk to you. Thanks again.
Wow, thank you so much, Kelley, for joining us.
Of
Giving
course.
you your flowers. The work that you do is really so phenomenal. You do it with
Thank
such
you.
care, such intentional care, and you shared it. But the incarceration rates of women, of Black women, are going up. There was a dip during COVID, and they're seeing those numbers rise again. So it's really important for people to be involved, to talk to their local government officials, to talk to their congressmen, and to really bring awareness to the stories of those that have been impacted, and share stories so that history can shift, right? So it doesn't repeat, so that it can shift. It's been such an honor to have you on today, Kelley.
Thank you.
Until next time, thank you so much.
Of course, my privilege. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Bye. For those of you that were tuning in, we just heard from Kelley Kali, who is the director of the film Kimba, about the story of Kimba Smith. If you're tuning in today, we highly encourage you to Google the story of Kimba, to watch the film, and to learn more about what women are experiencing and how you can kind of contribute and support. We have our next guest up, and we're going to bring him up in just a moment, but I would love to bring our co-hosts Roosevelt and Brittany up with us to share their perspectives and thoughts on that conversation that we just had with Kelley. I'll start with you, Roosevelt. You're on mute, Roosevelt.
Yeah, that was full circle. It was full circle to be able to hear, the problem and, how it started, but to have a solution and to be able to share that story right there to the masses was definitely inspiring. And now it's being broadcast, on BET. And to meet with the director right there, that was a personal touch. It was definitely promising to hear that during Black History Month, but it could happen to anyone. So, so definitely got to be aware of our surroundings. And I was really impressed to see how the NAACP stepped up. and to really support the cause and the movement. So that was full circle. That was very enlightening. I didn't know that. I learned something today.
Thank you so much. What about you, Brittany?
Well, one thing I definitely understood is the perspective of how that story can come to be, especially being so influential in young Black men's lives, especially in elementary and high school. I can see that there is a gentle grooming that goes on if you don't have anyone to advocate on your behalf, even at a young age. You will be gently groomed out of high school to not advocate for yourself, to not understand the justice system, and therefore being taken advantage of. So I can see how it's very easy that you could get wrapped up into something that has ultimately nothing to do with you. My personal perspective is in these underserved communities where they have, like Meet the Police Day, where they want to strengthen relationships between the youth and police officers. I personally feel like there needs to be a Meet the Lawyer Day, so that, just as she said, yes, these topics may be boring, but I would rather, my young people meet lawyers, be friends with lawyers, people who can actually advocate for you, than be building relationships with the police. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have proper representation, you really should not be talking and discussing anything. You are innocent until proven guilty. So if you do not work for the force, then do not work for the force. Get you a lawyer.
Education can happen in a lot of different ways. And, it's so key and critical to have these conversations. They can be challenging, but they're so important. And when someone learns something, like, I encourage anyone that's been tuning in, if you've learned something today, share it with someone in your community, because it creates the ripple effect, like Kelley was talking about. When you put positivity out there, when you can share insights out there, and then pay that forward and share that message with someone else, it creates that ripple effect of awareness. I'm going to bring our next guest up here, James Andrews. I'd love to hear what his thoughts were on that conversation. James, you are a storyteller. You are a creative. You've done it through music, through technology. You've been part of the community for so long. Before we dive into learning with you, sharing more about your work with our audience, I would love to hear some of your reflections, because I could see you kind of nodding your head kind of backstage and absorbing some of what Kelley was sharing.
Yeah, it was great to be here. What an opportunity. Well, I just think that the business of storytelling has never been better. We have so many outlets to tell our stories. I spend my days working with creatives who have a story to tell. And in fact, today I have a pitch at Amazon, actually. And it's ironic that I'm having this conversation right now. There's so many
for a reason, synchronicity.
Yeah, exactly. And so there are so many outlets in which, one can find a place to tell a story. So for those who are out there who are storytellers, filmmakers, there's sort of the traditional game of making sure a streamer picks up your content and, potentially you'd be on Netflix or BET. But I would not be limited by those outlets anymore. I would not think that those are the only ways in which you can tell your story. And so the thing that, I would just want to encourage, and I don't know all of Kelley's work, but the old Hollywood game is making room for a new Hollywood game. In many ways, you hear so much about AI. One of the things I'm really inspired by with AI is the ability to tell stories utilizing tools that are readily accessible to us. And those stories can come through audio, text, or video, by the way. And so I'm encouraged, the film that you talked about, the triple eight, triple six,
the 666, yeah.
Yeah. Co-produced by a childhood friend of mine, Nicole Avant, the daughter of Clarence Avant. Just such an honor to be able to see that film being made. She's worked on it for so long. Mr. Avon, if you're unfamiliar with The Black Godfather, I highly recommend you go watch that documentary, was my mentor, my personal mentor, and my chairman of my board. And it's just beautiful to see his daughter carrying on his vision and getting so many accolades for that. But yeah, just the thing that I know Mr. Avon would want me to say is, don't let these folks, don't think you have to wait for them to be green lit. You don't have to wait for the system to green light your story. Especially today, there's a number of ways in which stories can be told.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that perspective. The work that Nicole Avant did with Tyler Perry Studios and the entire cast of 688. But Black Godfather, that's also another great film. It's on Netflix. Highly recommend that to anyone that is tuning in. It goes through the life and the story of Clarence Avant, and just to see how he was so wise. He opened so many doors. There's so much that can be shared. We might have had a technical difficulty there. And James, we're going to ask you to share, maybe let's start there and then we can dive into your work. But what are 3 gems or insights that you learned from Clarence Avant throughout your life that really kind of inspired you or shifted the way you thought about life or about your work that you'd like to share with our audience? Clarence Avant touched so many people around the world, but I know particularly he touched you very directly. So would love for you to share with our audience today.
Yeah, well, what an honor to be able to talk about someone who was so impactful to my life. First, your network is your net worth. Clarence did a lot of things and created a lot of favors and a lot of opportunities without getting paid. Everything doesn't have to have a bag attached to it. There's something called social capital, and it's very real. And I learned at a very early age as a young, intern at a law firm with my own personalized monogram stationery in Century City at an entertainment law firm, how to make connections in Hollywood. I learned that pre-internet, pre-social media. So I was definitely a connector before we had friends and likes and followers. And so I think one of the things that he imparted upon me is to not only make connections, but make connections across a wide spectrum of relationships. I worked in the music business. It was a wonderful, place to make connections, but I also was a part of Congressional Black Caucus. I also was a part of, a bunch of really important marketing organizations, in New York City. And I learned how to build this kind of tapestry of relationships that span government, entertainment, and brand marketing enterprise corporations. So I learned that from Clarence. I learned that from a man named LeBaron Taylor, who was also a mentor of mine, who created BSLA, which is Black Entertainment Sports Lawyers Association. Sony at the time would produce an annual event at Congressional Black Caucus. And I learned how to leverage my access to entertainment, which everybody loves, to gain political access, to gain new relationships. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, spent 15 years in Atlanta. And, when you live in Atlanta, Georgia, politics is the main family business. And so our former mayor, Mayor Kasim Reed, was an entertainment lawyer. And, many of us who worked in the entertainment business were able to get access to the mayor's office because of Mayor Kasim Reed at the time. So, through Clarence, by the time I had moved to Atlanta, I learned a lot about the importance of serving on boards and being involved in politics. And so Atlanta gave me, what I love about Atlanta, it's unashamedly Black, it's unashamedly powerful, it's unashamedly Wakanda. And, I learned about, the power base of Atlanta, Georgia, not being from Atlanta, being from California, living in Atlanta. I learned, how to pool our resources together and strengthen numbers. And I think Clarence embodied all of that. I think Clarence, cut across many, many lines. I personally was involved in the Jewish community in Atlanta. I was involved in the Muslim community in Atlanta. I was involved with Koreans and Brazilians and Black folks alike. So when I got to Atlanta, even though it is largely African-American, because I'm from the West Coast, because I'm from the Bay especially, I got to shout that out. When you're from the Bay Area, you know how to cut across many, many cultural lines. And I learned that from Clarence, certainly. And I certainly was able to deploy that in Atlanta. I think the last piece is that, it's important to groom the next generation. When you look at Nicole Avant, she is daddy's girl. And Nicole is a beast. Nicole used to answer the phones in Mr. Avant's office. It'd be Ron Burkle, line 1, Bill Clinton, line 2, Snoop Dogg, line 3. And Nicole learned, a lot of her swagger and her ability to be a diplomat and an ambassador in that office. She actually went on to become ambassador of the Bahamas under President Obama. And, so I learned also about grooming the next generation. I do hope I pass that along to my kids. And what I do love is that Clarence gave his daughter an opportunity to be a woman who can step up into carry his mantle. And I fully believe that, truly believe that we must pass the mantle along to women, that, there's a difference between risk taking in men and women, boys and girls at an early age. And what I loved about Mr. Abont that I hope I'm able to pass on to my daughter is that it's okay to take a risk. It's okay to take a chance. And I think when you look at Nicole, she's definitely a risk taker and done a bunch of amazing things. And she stands on her own. She's married to Ted Sarandos, CEO of Netflix. But Nicole Abont is a beast and a force in her own right.
Wow. There's so much to unpack there. I have a couple more questions for you, Jane, but I'd also like to hand it over to Roosevelt to ask you a question as well, and then come back.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. And just to mirror that, every other Friday, my heirs, they're on a tutorial on a field trip with their father, sitting in meetings like this, being exposed to that. I like to say that, that we don't have kids anymore. We have heirs because they receive an inheritance. And really, the Black Godfather, he knew how to have that family stamina. That was part of his plan and part of his legacy. And that's why we're here today, recognizing and honoring the past, the present, and the future. So if you're watching this, don't be a parent, your kids or your heirs say, you weren't ever around. It's time to take them with you. Have them in the boardrooms, have them, when you're out there volunteering, servicing, opportunities like this. It's okay to give them that real life experience. So I model everything you said. Mr. Andrews, a big fan, big follower. And my question for you, sir, is how do you keep your positive mental attitude in times like this where, the world right now could be looked at as being, chaotic, but how do you keep your peace? How do you keep your zen to win?
Oh, thank you for that, Roosevelt. And I appreciate you talking about the heirs. I'm going to add one more pro tip because it's really a good one. I once went to a meeting in LA. I just moved back to LA from Atlanta probably about 10 years ago, met with a guy. We kind of sat together. At the end of the meeting, there was no money, no business, no thing, right? But he said, hey, my son's, 22. I said, my son's 22. We actually traded sons. And I took on his son for, a couple of weeks, and he took on my son for a couple of weeks. And it was a really, really special thing that I had noticed that I felt really right, especially in the Jewish community, which is where I've spent a lot of time. There's something about making sure that the tribe is nurtured. And so I love that, Roosevelt. And in fact, if you have kids and anybody, wants to intern with me, I'm always sort of the guy that ends up spending time, with a kid, who's looking for something. And again, that's the spirit of Clarence Abont. How do I stay motivated? One is just gratitude, man. I believe that, I'm here guided by, as a believer in Jesus Christ, as a believer in what is guiding me. I'm very aware of that on a daily basis. Two, honestly, these records in the background, it's so funny. It's just like an overlay, but music keeps me going, as a very healthy hobby. I play music, and I DJ, and, sometimes you might see me at LA Tribune events. Don't call me James, call me DJ Rich Cacao when you see me. But, DJing is something that I started picking up as an executive, DJing around the world. I used to give speeches, and I would ask them to let me DJ. And for me, DJing is very spiritual. I used to, DJ Jazzy Jeff is one of my dear friends, one of my best friends. And, I've spent a lot of time in DJ booths. And that to me is my pulpit. That to me is where I kind of lose myself in the music and the vinyl and in the liner notes of the past. I'm DJing for the people on the dance floor or in the audience, but I'm also DJing for myself. And so as cliche as that may sound for someone out there, music for me and hearing music and hearing the voices of our past, the voices of our future is really an important thing. I'm a child of hip hop. I grew up in hip hop. I worked in hip hop. I fed my kids, sent them to private schools on hip hop. And so it's definitely an important piece of my past. And I said that the third piece is just like, I have created transferable skills. And in these times, I try to, really celebrate the fact that, at 54 years old, that like I have created some skill sets that keep me motivated. I'm probably one of the most curious people that you'll meet. I am interested in everything. I treat life like academia, and everything is interesting to me. And especially in today's age of AI, whether you're using, Claude, or you're using Perplexity, or you're using Google Deep Research, like there's no excuse not to have your own library and your own container and treasure trove of resources. And so honestly, like I'll hear something on LA Tribune, what you guys are talking about here sometimes, and I may not understand it. I'm not the brightest bulb sometimes, but I will take that nugget and go and find out and research. But yeah, I think in these trying times, I look at it as cycles. Things are cyclical. It's not the first time we've been in trying times. I don't think the world is going to end tomorrow, but I do have a strong sense of legacy and the fact that we're in trying times often. Also, the world is bigger than the United States of America. I am traveling next week to Dubai for 2 weeks. And when you get news and you're in the Middle East, it's a very different perspective sometimes when you're looking at the world from different perspectives. So I try to stay out of just the pure American narrative and try to keep myself in a global position by hearing the global conversation.
I think Roosevelt is on mute there.
I was saying excellent point of view.
There's so much that we can learn from what you just shared, James, about having gratitude, about keeping a global perspective. I also want to go back to something you said a little bit earlier when you were talking about Clarence Avon and what he taught you, but what he taught Nicole about having that intersectionality across industries, and meeting people and connecting with people from across different industries. You don't know what you don't know, and you can learn so much. And then you can also be that bridge, right? You can be the one that can connect and bridge industries and understand what initiatives are going on in one space and bring that to another. Recently, this weekend, I had the opportunity and the honor to be at the NAACP Image Awards and take part in a celebration of Black joy and Black culture that I thought was so beautiful about the program that CEO Derek Johnson and everyone that's at the NAACP and the people that participated was that so many different people were recognized there. Kamala Harris was recognized with the Chairman's Award for the work that she's doing. Jotaka Edie was recognized for the social impact that she's doing and what she did with Win with Black Women and educating Black voters. There were people that were recognized in entertainment that are in movies, but that have written books, that have podcasts. They even brought in individuals that are doing the stunts and individuals that are the makeup artists because they're helping people look good. For you, you've had such a dynamic work career working across different industries. Like now you are a titan in the tech space. We're wishing you all the best with your meeting that you have with Amazon later today. But you talked about politics in Atlanta and you grew up in the music business. What can you teach the individuals that are tuning in today about why that intersectionality is so important and how they can be, and I'll take a word that Roosevelt, I hear him say a lot, but how they can be that thread across the industries to really push progress forward?
Yeah, I mean, I use the word culture slightly different than maybe the generation does. Culture to me are a set of systems and behaviors that guide communities. It's not just Black people or white people or Latinos. So I'm privileged to kind of spend time in many different worlds. I work with Kevin Garnett, NBA Hall of Famer, on content stuff, and then I'm working on sustainability and COP25 with a family office in New York City. And I enjoy the diversity of the worlds I live in. Definitely because I really love culture. I love whether it's the art patrons that I was with last week at Freeze, or I actually participated in the golf tournament NAACP before the awards, or I enjoy the diversity of experiences that I get, because it really does give me a broad sense of culture and how cultures come together. It gives me a language of culture. So I think one of the things I really pride myself on is being pretty multilingual in understanding the nomenclature of different cultures, whether it be the culture of art, the culture of wealthy billionaires, the culture of former athletes who are Hall of Famers. I spent time last week at NBA All-Star Weekend with a bunch of NBA All-Stars. And I, went to a party with a formerly incarcerated drug dealer who was a D-boy in Oakland. You know what I mean? Like that, I kind of enjoy all of that. And I think it makes me aware of humanity, aware that like at the base level, I like to make sure that the dinner table that I set is filled with, a titan from the tech world, formerly incarcerated, and maybe a government official, because we all have something to learn from each other. We all have something that we can glean from each other. And so I think that it's I'm a bit of a generalist, but in terms of the worlds that I work in, I would say the through line would be culture, certainly respecting culture, understanding culture, and then just technology, and how to stay ahead of the tools and the resources that are going to drive, economies and governments. If you look at the most interesting thing about, I think, the current conversation about AI is that it's becoming geopolitical. It's becoming actually even less about ChatGPT and like what are called, the LLMs, and more about energy and how each country is going to think about how they utilize energy. And so I think it's important to look at the connections from these things. And for me, as a technologist who understands culture, who understands music, I think it's really important that I have a wide view on how content, media, culture connects with AI, VR, spatial computing, and then what are the things that power those things? And then where are countries that are thinking about it? The users are at the front end. These are the people, all of us who make things. But on the back end is a geopolitical energy conversation about how we use resources, how we think about human capital and talent. And you look at the immigration conversation, some of the immigration conversation is about certainly, undocumented illegal immigrants in this country, some that you may, see coming up in the kind of buzzwords of like, of what happens, but some of them are tech talent, right? So how do we think about, getting ahead as a country? And so I think like being a generalist in my world is not a nice to have, it's a must have, because you need to understand culture, politics, to move things forward. And, it's great that I can tell you the latest dance or sometimes the latest saying by Gen Z. It's really tough to stay up with that. I'm not going to say I win all the time, but it's certainly, as interesting to think about how a young kid in Kenya connects to a young kid in East Oakland and how those connections will be what drive us forward. How, in Roblox or in a chat room, two people could come together and start the next ChatGPT. So those are the things I really like to think about. And it's a blessing and an honor to kind of the fact that my LinkedIn profile is probably confusing to most people, or that I never really stuck to one thing. But I'm grateful that like I cut across many different lines. And at least I only hang out with people, by the way, whose mothers don't know what they do for a living. And so I'm certainly one of those people whose mom doesn't know what I do for a living.
The box doesn't exist, and I think you're the epitome of that, right? And your ability to pull in from all of your experiences helps you look at whatever it is that you're focused on that's on your desk, or the conversation that you're having on the phone or on the Zoom app, in a different way, because you are pulling in so many different perspectives. And I think like the generalist mindset is definitely one when we think about inspirational legacy. The generalist mindset of learning from the past, understanding what the implications are now, but trying to figure out what the future looks like. That generalist perspective is one that definitely adds to the conversation. When you look at Clarence Avant, the Black Godfather, I love the introduction because he's in the middle and you see all of these faces from all these different places in the world, politics, music, all over the place, people from all different races. Kamala Harris is in there, Bill Clinton is in there, Barack Obama is in there. So many artists are in there, right? But he shifted and shaped culture in so many different ways. I love the MJ story that they kind of share in there of how he was the person, at the table. And I'm sure you could, share more at another time, maybe some of the stories and other life lessons that he taught you. But as you think about what inspirational,
can I add one thing? Can I add one thing, Alicia? Sorry, because it's Black History Month, I'd be remiss to say that my favorite class at UCLA. I went to UCLA, by the way. I'm a college dropout. I didn't make it all the way through because I got caught by the music bug. My favorite class was actually Paul Robeson. And it was a Paul Robeson class. And if you're familiar with who Paul Robeson was, he was a football player, he was an actor, and he was an activist. I highly recommend for anybody out there that wants to take a Black History Month study and you want to show your kids something, go look at the life of Paul Robeson. And I took this Paul Robeson class at UCLA, and that was where I was like, man, this dude was a star football player, an activist, and an actor, and in the 30s, And so, I'm a big fan of the individuals that can cut across all the lines, that bring their curiosity, bring their culture to the table, to be able to do, lots of different things. We're talented folk, you know what I'm saying? Like we are able to do lots of different things. And yes, I'm grateful for all of those who kind of inspire me on that path.
I love that. Brittany, I know you're here with us. I'd love to create space for you to ask James a question as we come to a close shortly with this segment. But James, you're part of the Los Angeles Tribune family. We'll definitely have you back on, but you always drop so many gems and wisdom with our community. So it's always amazing to have you on with us. Brittany, over to you.
Well, I was wondering, because you're a generalist, you're in the creative industry, and we're in such a contentious time right now with DEI and affirmative action. I am wondering what your thoughts on, because I feel like nepotism is the backdoor to affirmative action. So you can get rid of it, but the real thing that no one wants to talk about or protest is nepotism. And, people in underserved communities, Black people really should support nepotism because it really talks about passing down the legacy, like you said, trading interns. And especially when you're in those creative spaces, you have to know someone that knows someone who can get you in. So what are your thoughts on maybe nepotism in the industry? Since you're in so many.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thought. I love that. Nepotism is the backdoor to that. In many ways, I've benefited from my own sort of familial tribal nepotism. I spent a lot of time in Israel, actually, and I used to advise a Jewish philanthropy. I myself am part Ashkenazi Jew, and I really admired the intentionality behind how the tribe makes sure that they're all connected. Make sure that, I participated in an event one time. It was like speed dating. And basically it was like all the people who were interested in entertainment over here, interested in finance over here. And it was like 10 o'clock at night. And, there was like these quick 6-minute, I was at a Jewish conference, Jewish philanthropy conference. And I think that, we as African-Americans can do the same thing. That is the thing I do love about Atlanta and love during my experience being in Atlanta, seeing how the HBCU network, the Morehouse Spelman network, the CAU network comes together. Atlanta as its own tribe is definitely a network. I haven't lived in Atlanta in 10 years, but I'm, grateful for, the relationships that I still have, with the Ushers and the Ludacris's and all the other leaders and venture capitalists in Atlanta that inspire me. And Atlanta did give me the first glimpse at a model for how African Americans can live tribally, because it is definitely, there are a lot of signals that are sent when you live in Atlanta that tell you, that you're in a tribe, and I think that it's a new way to kind of maybe counteract maybe what's happening in diversity, in the cuts that are happening in diversity and DEI programs, is to build hyper-connected, networks. I have, for instance, like 6 different WhatsApp groups that I run and manage, and it's kind of my social network. Like I don't spend as much time as I do in my own curated feeds. And so like a lot of those connections are happening in my own fiefdoms. So I feel like I've been able to spend the last 10 to 15 years, finding out how to build my own clusters and not be as dependent on some of those programs. And it's not for everybody, right? Like everybody you don't come born and, and understanding how these work unless you have the exposure. And when you have the exposure, when I worked at the law firm, I saw the connections. When I worked in the entertainment business, I could see, you start off in the CAA mailroom, and then you get a job at a studio, and then you get a job, working with someone. And entertainment is a great system. It's one of many that shows you how nepotism works. And I think I try to carry that through, and I carried it through in every industry that I went to. I went into advertising for 10 years, and saw very similar nepotistic approaches to that. So Brittany, I love your question and your thought. And I feel like there's an article in that, by the way, in this idea that build your own tribe right now. And it's never been easier to build your own tribe, first of all. And you don't have to have, I have a WhatsApp group that's full of Dubai, Saudi people. That's, 60 people. But like for me, like I'm doing the Clarence Avant thing. So anytime anybody goes to Dubai or Saudi, I'm connecting them. So just like Clarence taught me, I may not have been to Dubai for 2 years, but I'm thorough in the borough. You know what I'm saying? In Dubai, like I'm like, as soon as I go there, they're like, Yallah, Habibi. It's because like I actually spend time cultivating these little nodes, these little networks. And so what a beautiful frame of reference to look at nepotism, or positive ways to look at nepotism. I feel like for so long we look at nepotism as a bad thing. But with Mr. Avant, which I consider myself part of his family tree, when I worked on The Black Godfather, and everybody involved in there are my cousins. You know what I'm saying? And when you're Black, everybody's your cousin anyway. And so like I feel like in the same way, I just end on this, and the nepotism thing. I used to say about my kids, what you can leave your kids is, a dowry and a will and a life insurance policy. But the greatest thing I can leave them is, Auntie Alicia and Uncle Roosevelt, right? That when they call you, you say, you're James Andrews' son, or you're James Andrews' daughter. Of course, I'm going to take a meeting with you. And I've told this story for about 20 years. And now that I put your names in it, you're now part of the story, which is part of it, right? Like if anything ever happened to me, that my kids could reach out to you, and you'd be able to say, that's James Andrews' son, that's James Andrews' daughter. And I like that, Brittany, because that's kind of the way that I've always thought about life is, leave a legacy of relationships of uncles and aunties that, my kids could pick up the phone and call, and they would take the meeting with them, and that's half the battle for so many people. I always say LA is all about who's going to return your phone call. And so if I can make that much easier for people, then I'll continue to do that. And I love just watching the parents that do that. I'm friends. This is the last story, I promise. I'm friends with a guy named Worldwide West in New York. He's probably, I'm connected to a network of connectors that are my favorite connectors. Worldwide West was Michael Jordan's right-hand guy in the 80s. He's probably the most connected man in sports. And you can Google him and research him. He goes by Worldwide West. West today is the vice president of the New York Knicks. But West, literally, when I'm with him, it'll be Bill Clinton, line 1, John Tyson from Tyson's Chicken, line 2, Scottie Pippen, line 3. And his daughter recently reached out to me because she wanted tickets to One Music Fest in Atlanta. So I gave her tickets to the show. And then a couple weeks ago, I was in New York, and I had dinner with Wes and his daughter. And she must be 16. She's in high school. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And she texts me like every 30 days. Hello, Mr. Andrews. How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? I'm like, this is sweet. And she is front row at the Knicks games, bringing some woman she met and some guy she met, and she's in New York doing Uncle Wes's, good work that Wes did in Chicago and in around the world in the 80s and 90s. And I love to see that. I love to see the next generation passing along what you're talking about, Brittany, which is that, like, I'm going to come up with a new word for it, but, strategic nepotism. That's certainly a great example.
Oh, what a phenomenal question, Brittany and James. Thank you for sharing perspective there. And I think instilling a lot of curiosity and thought in our viewers' minds about how they can think about nepotism in a different way and creating a community and bridging communities and bridging and connecting people in a different way. James, I'm going to throw this out there because our editor-in-chief, Ava V. Manuel, is actually currently in Dubai. We launched our Dubai Business Journal, and she is out there. She's capturing stories and connecting with our community out there. We have Adriana that joined us from Dubai earlier in the program. She said hello from Dubai. But James, just going to throw this out there to connect with Ava. I think it's so beautiful that you're really a bridge across continents, across industries, and having really insightful conversations. It has been such a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you, Brittany, for that question and taking us there. Because when we think about what inspirational legacy is all about, past, present, future, we get to change the definitions that have been put upon us and look at them in a different perspective and be the change that we want to see and pay that forward. So thank you so much, James. It's been such a pleasure and honor having you on. And I know that you will be back soon.
Absolutely. And your phone will be ringing, James. So thank you very much. Strategic nepotism.
Auntie Roosevelt, Auntie Brittany. I love that. And that's such a great perspective to share for everyone in the audience. Thank you so much, James. Now I'm going to hand it over to Brittany and Roosevelt, who are going to introduce our next two guests, Timothy and Carlton. And I will be back with you all in just.
All right. Well, let's take it from here, folks. I'm thrilled and honored to be able to have some special guests with us because of time and energy here. We actually have, I like to have Carlton Overstreet, lead us off with just saying hello, what you're doing today. And then we'll have Mr. Timothy Wallace share with us about his book and how he's demonstrating and implementing strategic legacy and nepotism as well. So with no further more, Overstreet, you have the floor to say hello, sir.
Salutations. Can you hear me okay? With a thumbs up, please say yes. Thumbs up. Roosevelt Williams III, Brittany Miller. Thank you, Young Black and in Business. Thank you, LA Tribune, for having us. I'm reporting live from the San Diego City Council chambers. I literally just stepped out to say hello to the team, our collective Southeastern disaster relief team. We're being acknowledged by the mayor and the San Diego City Council for our work during the 2024 flood disaster relief efforts. So it's a full house. Our community is here in numbers, speaking towards the work that remains to be done to the Los Angeles community that recently experienced the fires. You all know what a natural disaster and how the lack of planning affects the entire village. But I'm just here to be of service. Roosevelt Williams III, Brittany Miller, community partners, family members, James, brother. I'm also a HBCU alumni, Howard University, Bison in the house, HU, teamwork makes the dream work. It is a family effort. As you can see behind me, the football team, the Lincoln Hornets High School, just received acknowledgement and a proclamation for their second in 3 years state champion, CIF state champion championship. So we're here. We're excited. We're here to build. We're here to be of service in any capacity. Roosevelt, I'm going to be signing off, but I just wanted to thank you for your time, energy, and efforts. And let's continue to build. Carry on.
All right, thank you. As you definitely sign off, we're going to have Mr. Timothy Wallace share Mr. Overstreet. Okay, thank you very much for joining us again, Mr. Wallace. Please share with us, sir, because with you being an author, a servant leader, a great community member, mentor, can you please share with us a little bit about your book, your background, and how folks can become a mentor and be a servant?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Young Black and in Business, LA Tribune. Definitely nice to be here this morning. The book is called The Imperfect Masterpiece Playbook, and it's centered around a two-part process, which is being able to understand your story. Now, we all have those two different stories. We have the story that we're actually going through, and we have the story that we're telling ourselves. And so as you're going through life, you go through different experiences, you have these seeds that get planted. You got seeds from maybe some of the things that are spoken over you. You got seeds from the environment that you're living in, the associations that you have. All these different things plant these seeds that make you feel, what am I worthy of attracting into my life? And so the first part of the book is all about being able to dissect that story, to be able to look at that and go, okay, in what ways am I looking at something from a different and a distorted view? Like, what delusions have I put in my head? And a lot of people deal with things like imposter syndrome, and they're doing people pleasing. They don't realize that they're dimming their light in a lot of ways. And so this book is all about being able to kind of shine a light on that, be able to understand your story, to figure out your worth. And once you've done that, then you get on the process of networking and finding out what's your purpose, what's your vision, what are your goals, breaking that down. And so it's like that two-part process. Some people get started in business ahead of time and they'll start doing those things, but then they'll realize they're starting to self-sabotage because they don't believe it in themselves worthy of attracting that into their lives. So they're like, why am I not making the progress that I possibly could? Why am I holding myself back? Why am I not taking on these opportunities? And so if you do that part first, you can do them in tandem, or you can do it at that part first. When you heal yourself and you understand what your worth is, that's when you're going to be able to attract that. So that's what the book is all about, being able to identify that, get rid of all the delusions, the distortions that are in your mind to see what you're worthy of attracting and bringing into your life.
Oh, wow. That's amazing, because as you know, hurt people do hurt people.
Hey, that's
we
right.
Have to do some healing.
Yeah.
Miss Miller, do you have the floor?
Hi, Timothy.
Good to see you.
We literally just spoke last night.
We did. That's right. Good to see you.
Did you get the t-shirt for the walk?
I'm going to get my t-shirt right after this call. That's what I'm getting.
Okay, no, it's great to see you hop on here and speak more about your book and about your coaching services.
Yes.
I would love, especially since we're in Black History Month, to really talk about how your coaching services you feel like are able to help, the underserved population.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, it's mindset work. And one of the greatest tools that I like to use is a tool by Dr. David R. Hawkins. It's called the Map of Consciousness. And so in that field, or in that map of consciousness, you have what's the lower level, which is the victim mentality. So that's where your shame, your anger, these lower level vibration like energies or emotions are at. And then you get up to the level of courage where you're ready to start taking actions. And so that's like self-actualization. Okay, I'm empowered to start moving towards that vision, that goal. And then you get up to the higher level, which is self-realization, realizing your highest self. So again, this work, if you are familiar with, it's like, say if you're in an underserved community, and I grew up at-risk youth, and I had my own story that I was telling myself. So if you are in a family, and in your family, you have nobody who's gone to college. In your environment, you don't see people going to college. You see, let's say, gang violence. You see, again, you don't have a support system through your parents or through your siblings, people who are speaking life into you. How do you get out of that? How do you reprogram your mind? And that's one of the most beautiful things. And one of my favorite movies is The Matrix, because it talked about that ability to be able to reprogram and to be able to see a little bit deeper. And so what I would say for those people, and I love organizations like Young Black and in Business, and there's lots of nonprofit organizations that get the youth to get outside of the community, to get into, and again, to be able to visualize things that are more expansive, to be able to step into that, the discomfort of going into a different environment and seeing things that are a little bit greater. And so that's what I would say is it's so important to be able to go into different environments and to connect yourself with people, to get mentors, people that, again, will speak life into you, and to just expose you to different philosophies, ideas, perspectives, so that you can kind of expand what you feel like you're capable of attracting and bringing into your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did some mind traveling today. Some time traveling, actually, with these young adults that we spoke at. Meditating. How do you decipher, use between bad energy and negative energy?
I love that you said that. And what I'll say is the two words is flow and resistance. And it all really comes down to integrity. So again, if you're conducting an action and you feel inner resistance, and we all know the difference between, what's right and wrong, it's a lot easier to eat that pizza, or it's a lot easier to sit on the couch. It's a lot easier to say, oh, I want to do this, I'm going to do this, than actively actually doing it. And so once you begin that process, it's actually, you are recreating neural networks in your mind as you begin to establish new habits. So it's, again, there's a really great book. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it talks about that incremental growth. So as you are beginning to take these new actions, your mind is actually actively resisting. Your mind doesn't necessarily want you to feel new, higher emotions. So at first, you'll feel active resistance when you're trying to, like, if you're, again, one of those, that map of consciousness, when you're feeling in that anger, shame, guilt, grief kind of energy, as you start to elevate, you're going to get active resistance. But as you, again, you kind of step into that, you put yourself in that new environment and you go against the resistance, you'll feel that sort of flow. And it's kind of creating a new pattern, but it's flow and resistance is how you know that difference there. So kind of listening to yourself, getting that intuition, and that'll help out a lot with that.
Absolutely. And before I pass it to Ms. Miller here, can you please share with us the power of consistency? Because that's key. You know, you have to continue to think positive, no stinking thinking, and have a pattern and a trend of those, and then you'll get those successful habits. So can you please share with us, the power of consistency?
100%. And I'd say two words that come to mind. That's funny. You always got those two words. It's grace and accountability. So again, if you don't want to set yourself up for failure by going, okay, like, let's say I want to be a motivational speaker. I'm going to go, like, my plan is this year, I'm going to speak at a conference full of 500,000 people. And it's not to say, you shouldn't set your sights low or anything like that. But again, having that humility, using that SMART goal kind of format, what's realistic? Okay, let me speak at a local organization. Let me do that. How can I make sure that my goals and the things that I'm moving towards to build these habits, I'm meeting myself where I'm at. I'm going to meet myself where I'm at, as opposed to doing it like this, and start to build that momentum, start to create that snowball effect. And then it's at the same time having that accountability. So if I'm not setting the bar so low and keeping it low, okay, I've been doing this I've been speaking at lower organizations for X amount of months. Maybe I can do that 5,000. I can put myself out there for something bigger. How can I, again, make sure that I'm going towards comfortable discomfort? I know that sounds like a contradiction, but it's like, how can I put myself in reasonable discomfort that will allow me to expand? Because expansion is uncomfortable, but it's the only way that we grow. It's like me, I associate everything with working out because I love to work out. But if I keep lifting these little small weights, I'm not going to get stronger. I'm not going to get bigger. My body will naturally become attuned to that, and it's not going to help me to grow. I have to create that discomfort to allow my muscles to grow. So that's lifting heavier and that conscious discomfort that I'm bringing in. And
that's how you meet the moment. That's excellent.
Right.
That's excellent. Ms. Miller, did you want to conclude with the question for Mr. Wallace?
Yes. So, one of the things I've taught myself, when it comes to like that mental toughness is I really had to get rid of the days of the week in my mind and what they represent. I think we've been groomed to think that Saturday, Sunday means you need to be leisurely. But even with my 8-year-old son, I try to explain to him Saturday and Sunday it's not real. It's not real. So I have, a part of preparing for the week. I actually start my week on Sunday, exactly what I would do on Monday, but I do it on a Sunday. And I feel like naturally weekends for me end up being more so Thursday, Friday of how like I feel during the week. But that's how I've kind of trained myself to push through to get to that next level so I can always stay at a high vibration. What was maybe one thing you've maybe personally done for yourself, a little habit you've taken in for yourself to make sure that you're always maintaining a high vibration?
I love that. For me, it's starting the day off right. So my morning routine, it's 100% consistent. So I start my mornings off at 3:45 in the morning. I do some yoga, I do meditation, I do breath work, I work out, and that's all the time. That's every day. I wake up at that time, and again, you build those neural networks to be like, okay, and that becomes hardwired in your brain. At first, you get that active resistance, but as you're consistent, your mind, that's what I like calling it, owning your yeses and your nos. So as in the beginning, you might be going, I don't want to do that. You might go those excuses. But again, those become from screaming and yelling when you first get started out to becoming those faint whispers that they understand, I no longer have any power over you. And so for me, it's just a solid morning routine. But I love what you said too, especially for the people, let's say, who have careers and not necessarily businesses. but it's like, okay, I've devoted my 9 to 5 to this job. The rest of those hours before I go to sleep are for me. What am I doing to build myself up? What am I doing to build my goal, to build my dream, to build that vision? And that can come before 9 for me, or it could be, you know, after 5 o'clock. But yeah, I feel it's so important to start your day off the right way.
Excellent. And just in conclusion, how could listeners, viewers, followers become a part of the Imperfect Masterpiece Academy?
Yeah. So you can follow at www.trwspeaks.com to book a session. You can also follow me at TRWSpeaks on Instagram. Link in the bio to go ahead and set up a free clarity call. I primarily work with men, but I definitely am open to women. I understand that a little bit more, but yeah, primarily working with men on mindset shifts, creating actionable items, and yeah, just getting clear, being productive.
Okay, definitely a coach, mentor, a founder, author, you know, extraordinary gentleman. It's been an honor for you to be able to join us, Mr. Timothy Wallace, and we look forward to seeing and hearing you do more, sir. Thank you for your service as well.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have a beautiful day.
Thank you. Miss Miller, can you please share with us what have you taken in so far on this global broadcast? Some of the gems that you took a note on.
Definitely understanding that the individual perspectives we have in our lived experiences contribute to the global experience, you know, throughout the diaspora. We live our own individual lives, but our experiences either are repeated in our lives or the friends that we know, you know, or even like the movies that we're watching. So being able to take those lived experiences, learn from them, take them in, pass them on to people that we know and love, so that as we kind of navigate our way through life and through the opportunities that life presents us, you know, we do it in a way where we do it in a source of strength and a source of knowledge, and just understanding a lot of the great knowledge you're going to get is going to be passed down to you word to mouth, like, you know, someone that you know. From, you know, the story from the first interview we had where she was director of that movie, you know, even all the way down to the public speaker, you know, be having someone where you can have an intimate relationship with them and they're able to share that knowledge with you is so impactful.
Yeah, that is great. And I really like how you suggested and invited all of us to consider strategic nepotism. I believe it was kind of, you know, combined with, you know, with that. But that's what we have to do. You know, we have to look out for each other. I like to share with everyone the 10 most powerful 2-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to us. It is up to us. So, you know, do business with those that do business with you. Take care of those that take care with you, and move with empathy and compassion. And that's how your network can ultimately grow, because you become a person of value. So I definitely want to thank you for that. Just to give you a heads up as we wait for our next guest to come on stage about some of our events and activities that we have coming up as a Young Black and in Business. We have our annual business conference, BizCon, that's taking place on Friday, September 12th. We'll put that information in the chat. It's going to be at the San Diego Convention Center, and it's going to be an extravaganza, business fashion show, speakers coming in, flying all around the world to come in and share with us. We're going to financial literacy workshops, and it's going to be family friendly, but geared to early emerging entrepreneurs. We're also having an event called a Chef Fest that we're having on June the 7th, where we're going to have artists come in. So be on the lookout for that as well. But it's all about unifying. If it is to be, it is up to us. So with that being said, Ms. Miller, did you want to share what you have coming up and going on and how people can get connected?
So, yes. Every first or second Friday, we are now hosting business walks as a part of our economic development push within Young Black and in Business. So yes, unfortunately, the walks are located in San Diego right now, but I've already put a bug in Alicia's ear that we want to make sure that our content stays digital. We're always doing something. So really figuring out how the in-person content we have, the small businesses that we meet, we can make sure we give them a global stage is our top priority this year. So our next business walk is going to be Friday, March 7th. We will be visiting DL Booker Enterprises. They will be featured on our website. So if you're not in San Diego and can't join us on the walk, you can always visit us at ybnbasap.com so that you can stay up to date on all the small businesses that we meet in person. Of course, we have the BizCon 2025. Roosevelt does not, give himself enough due and justice. He attracts local media and national attention. There will be a ribbon breaking. There will be a press release that the media is invited to. There's also going to be a pitch competition. So register for BizCon 2025. Even if you are there, any event that we have, be ready to be seen. We will have reporters there. The media will be there. Podcasters will be there. And then the Young Black and in Business platform will be capturing the entire event. We have private Facebook groups that you're able to join. So again, we have our in-person events, but then we also have a Facebook private group or Facebook live event that coincides with what we do in person. After BizCon, it's very, very early to release it, but it looks like we will be having another gala. Is that okay, Roosevelt?
Absolutely, please.
Yes. Okay, so this will be our 5th gala at Taquan Casino. This is our high-end networking mixer black tie affair. There will be a live band. It will be a sit-down 3-course dinner. There'll be a photo booth, multiple red carpet experiences so that we'll have live interviews, live podcasters, dignitaries. This is the gala you want to be at if you want business to business relationships and partnerships, or if you're looking to get those business to government relationships as well. So BizCon 2025, the 5th annual gala at Taquan Casino, the first Sunday in December. We're packed for this entire year. Just go on ahead and join.
Okay, join today. And I want to thank Mo Rock and the Los Angeles Tribune team for having a platform that is engaging and for the people, giving the people a voice. And I want to, again, thank the entire Los Angeles Tribune team. And that was a global connectivity. So, again, get excited, get involved, but most importantly, get connected today. So at this time, we're going to transition into a mastermind video. And I want to say you all deserve recognition. You all deserve to be heard. So please join the Los Angeles Tribune publication and look up Young Black and in Business. We're going to continue to bring you authentic stories from the people. So no furthermore, we'll go into our mastermind video. Take copious notes. Thank you. All right, outstanding. We're going into our video shortly. Again, my name is Roosevelt Williams III. I am the CEO of Young Black and in Business. You'll see I can be reached directly at 619-665-3031. You can call me today at 619-665-3031 or visit our website, joinybnbasap.com. It's been an honor to be with you. And again, I want to thank Mo Rock and the Los Angeles Tribune. I want to thank my illustrious co-host, Ms. Brittany Miller, and Alicia as well. It's been great. Teamwork makes the dream work.
I'm so delighted that we're here today and having an opportunity to have this dialogue about essentially looking at how can we develop and support Black youth into the 21st century and beyond. Roosevelt, what are your thoughts about this?
It's an absolute privilege to be here with servant leaders, but most importantly, that all have solutions. So this information is definitely going to be encouraging. It's going to be enlightening, and most importantly, exciting.
We are about exciting. So with that said, I'd like to pass the mic to my right, and I'd welcome it if you could not only give a little sense of who you are, but really if you have something on your heart, a piece of wisdom about leadership in that sort of one breath spirit, love to hear it.
So I'm Monty Jones. I'm the CEO at Logan Heights CDC. And again, it is exciting to be here. I think me being a leader in San Diego, someone mentored me to the position I am in today. And I think it's important that, leaders mentor and bring people along, especially young Black folks. In this current environment, I think the information cannot stay with you. You have to spread that information around and lead with passion and empathy. But you also have to, when given information, you have to deliver in a way where it doesn't come off as um, in a way that people feel intimidated about it. So you have to, be genuine about the information that you're trying to relay to someone in order for them to model a particular way so they can have something to grow from.
Makes sense.
Hello, I am Zakina Stewart, CEO of Evolve Coaching Solutions and First Lady of Greater Life Church. And what I will say about leadership is my passion would be servant leadership. Now, it's because of where I came from, because of the lack that I saw, that I wanted to help meet the needs of other people. So when I step into environments and when I teach people, I go for my convictions, I go for my beliefs, and that's what drives my leadership. So then when things get hard in leadership, I can still go because I'm doing it from a place of conviction, my beliefs, and I want to meet others' needs. So I think in teaching younger people that we need to teach them what's important in the world. What are your convictions? What are your beliefs? Because you're going to have something to stand on when things get hard.
Splendid.
Nicely said.
My name is Brittany Miller. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Young Black and in Business. And my favorite piece of advice for leadership is to lead in every way and lead every day.
Good afternoon. My name is Ebony James, and I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Logan Heights CDC. This quote has been with me all morning, all week, really, and I pulled it directly from The Silent Rebellion, Becoming a Modern Leader, and it said, "Lead with sincerity, and you'll be a magnet for success." And that was a quote that was spoken by my very own amazing CEO, Monty Jones. And leadership is rooted in integrity and it's rooted in purpose. And so that's what I would encourage young Black leaders is to have a sense of integrity, and the success will follow.
My name is Lynn Sharp, and I'm the founder and CEO of In Motion Incorporation. And that is mentoring one team impacts our neighborhood. And the vision came in 2000 after being crowned Mr. Black San Diego. And I have to give the props to Ray and Pearlie Killings, because they brought something out of me I didn't even know I had. I was one of those behind the scenes. So what I want to flip the script when it comes to leadership, you have to be a good leader. You have to be in order to be a good leader, you have to be a great follower. Mm-hmm. It can't be reversed because of the fact that you don't know how to become a good leader if you don't know how to be a great follower. So, and I encourage the young people today and any day that to stand your ground. You got to have faith, because some of the things that it comes is faith. Faith is something that you have to. We all have. We've been born with it. So the faith has to be intact, and then somebody along the way, like Pearlie and Ray, brought that out of me. So yeah, just stand firm and continue doing what you're doing. Don't give up the fight.
Nicely said. And in fact, I'm thinking about something, Zakina, that you said earlier, where you talked about building relationships with young people and meeting them where they are. Talk to me, let's hear a little more about that in terms of leadership, in terms of how do we foster those relationships so that young folks are going to get what they need.
Thank you. First of all, we have to understand who we're dealing with a lot of young folks. They are broken. They have been hurt. And that's a lot of times what pushes us into leadership. So we have to break that and soften them up. Let's build a relationship. Let's not be so hard on them at first. It takes steps. So when we're working with youth And when I'm working in any job, I'm going to build a relationship. How are you doing? How are you really doing? What's going on at home? Then, they'll talk. And so then I can get into, do you want a mentor relationship? Should I mentor you? Can I tell you these things? That's actually good advice for adults as well. Right. Because then when we need to correct them in leadership, they'll listen because they trust you and they know your heart for them. That's very important. If you come up to me, let's just say I'm in church, and you tell me, take that hat off, I'm going to look at you like you're crazy. But if I know you and you have a relationship with me, you might not like it, but you'll take it. And so that's been my success in dealing with young people and people who are older because of my age, and I'm having to deal with some people who are older. If I've built a relationship and they know that I care about them, they may not like what I say, but they trust me as their leader and they trust where I'm trying to take them, so they'll listen. Yeah. Did I answer you?
You did.
Okay.
And I want to, yes, I am pausing. See, this is what I get. Don't stop rolling. But my quick question is, treat the camera like it's another person at the table. So like you're talking to me and you're talking to them.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
That was a perfect answer. Pass the mic.
I wanted to follow up to that just because it goes back to the integrity, right? With young people this day and age, I would say young people are they're the hardest generation to build relationships with, right? Just because of the trauma and all of the things that they've experienced. But I think what you said is so key, is building that trust and that rapport. And it goes back to me for integrity because young folks can see through the BS, right? And they're willing to call you out on the BS too, right? And so having that rapport and building that relationship with them is so key in order to even be identified to them as a leader, right? You don't have to have a title, but if they see that you're genuine, they see that you can be trusted, like you said, they are willing to give you the opportunity and they automatically identify you as someone that is a leader to them in their perspective. So I think what you said is so key. So I wanted to add to that.
And that's great. And I'm going to share to someone that is looking for a mentor and to the audience, you can't have your hand and your chest out. For someone that has two mentors, literally, that stand to the left and to the right of me, I had to put one of them in. I couldn't have my hand and my chest out. I had to be able to humble myself. And if you listen to understand before speaking to be understood, you can go further faster.
Well said. Well said.
Can I add
Please.
on that? Often, if you are a leader, you have several people coming to you for mentorship. And so it can be overwhelming. So you can't take all the mentors on. But so what I try to do is important to raise up young people so that they can take on mentors. But when you're establishing a mentor relationship, it's important to let them know this is not a friendship.
Boundaries.
Speak.
This is
it's not equal.
It's not a friendship. It's not. I love you and I care about you and I'm investing my time because I want to see you go further. But are you sure you want to take me on as your mentor? Because it's gonna come with some hard truths. It's gonna come with some accountability. It's gonna come with some lie. But in the end, it's gonna come with you growing beyond where you thought you can go.
Yes. Agreed.
Lynn?
Yes.
You know what I had to do? I lean on the scripture where it says, do unto others as they would do unto yourself. It's not the other way around when people think as they do to you. No. So I had to backtrack, as a teen myself. I had to go back to the old landmark when I was a teen to see how I approached, how would I handle things. So I had to learn something from myself over time. So over time, and then had to see and then be able to connect with the youth today, because it's definitely a different generation. It's not the same generation. So that's where the patience come in, because back then, patience didn't even exist. No, you're just gonna do it and that's it. But now we have to have a lot of patience, a lot of love, because the fact that that's what they're lacking. They're lacking a lot of love. So they're not going to take you serious until, you just hang on in there, and then they open up. But I believe that those who do have the gift in that area, they will open up. So that's just a gift.
Lynn, I'd be interested in having you maybe speak to what is the role of what I would call just home training. Everyone in this room knows when I say home training, you know what I'm talking about. And I mean doing what you said you do, showing up on time, being courteous, all of those things. A lot of that has gone by the wayside. And so I think Zakina, when she was saying, if I'm going to mentor you, we're going to have some hard truths. How do we make sure that we're equipping the next generation well for this? And Monty, I'd like your thoughts on this as well.
Looking a person in the eye, shaking the hand, standing up near an out.
Right. There you look. Yeah.
If
There
you
you go,
don't have
Mr.
the
Black.
mic, they can't hear
Is
you.
it? He put a nutshell, and I like the way Lady Z did it. Like, yeah, I'm not your best friend. So at home, you're gonna have your own children will be your enemy because you can laugh with them, joke with them, you spoil them to death. But when they get out of line and you correct them, then they don't know how to handle that, and it's a tough thing. But so you just have to stand firm on it like that and believe that in the long run they'll see. They may not get it then, but they'll get it when the time comes. That what you were doing and what you were trying to teach them. So yeah, at home it has to be. You got to have tough love. If you don't have it, then you're just gonna have a best friend, and it's not. They don't go hand in hand. So
Monty, and hold it up a little closer.
One thing I learned in my early years, starting back my time at the Encounter Boys and Girls Club, running that branch and having access to all these young people. And so one of the things that I strive to do is model a behavior that I think they should see, right? And when they see in a Black man, they need to see a Black man who, one, on time, who stick to his word. If he says he's going to do something, he's going to do something. And you have to provide a little tough love, right? At the same time. My greatest accomplishments is to hear young people who I run into years later in banks, in the stores, say, you may not remember me, but I used to watch you, and now because of what I saw you did in my community, now I'm a nurse, I'm this, I'm that. And you never know, you don't have to go out of your way. You just have to model a behavior. And you just never know who's watching. And leadership is not about look at me and look what I'm doing. Leadership is about, in the face of anything, continue doing what you have to do and work hard, even in the face of adversity. If you continue to work hard, people are watching, young people are watching. And so you can't be about, look at me, I'm doing this. Leaders keep their head down and they work hard. People are watching, whether you believe it or not.
So there's a quote, and you draw me to it, Monty. It said, "True leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room, but about cultivating the strength to uplift others even when no one is watching." So it is not about being the loudest in the room. Sometimes you cannot say anything and you're the force in the room. And so leadership shows up in different and multifaceted ways. And so that's a point that I wanted to kind of emphasize on.
Absolutely. And I did want to pass it to Ebony though, because I'm so sorry. I'm losing my mind. I love Brittany. Brittany, I wanted to ask you to reflect on that for me as well, in terms of when you think about leadership and you think about working with youth and what you've seen in Young Black in Business, what have you seen that you think is so important to reflect upon? And then take the mic from her.
One thing I would definitely like to say is that growing up, I think a lot of us were familiar with the do as I say, not as I do.
No lies.
Exactly. So understanding that that's the generation we came from, a lot of the people above us may not have had integrity, but they wanted to instill those values in us. Somehow it was forced down our throat and we figured it out. But the younger generation is do as I do, not do as I say. So now as leaders, I find us in this, this place of transition where it is imperative that we uphold our integrity every single day. You know, just like you said, they will call you out. If you are half stepping on Monday, you cannot speak to them on Tuesday. So even understanding that I'm operating in a different paradigm, but I'm operating with a different generation. I have to maintain myself first, maintain my own leadership qualities, maintain my own principles, my own values. And I remember being yelled at, you don't have principles and you don't have values, and not understanding what that meant. But then as I continued through life and I actually understood that these principles and these values will save my life, now being able to communicate with the next generation, having to show them and communicate with them, not only by my words, but through my actions, and then talk to them about what they're seeing. What you're seeing are my principles at play. What you're seeing is you crossing my boundaries. You know, and what you're seeing is what happens when you cross my boundaries, when you don't accept my values, when you disrespect my principles. These are going to be the consequences because of the standard I uphold myself to. And I want to communicate to you that this too can be your standard. So tell me, what are your principles? What are your boundaries? Even having to communicate, you know, because I am a single mom of an 8-year-old, to communicate the reason why you feel upset is because you think I crossed a boundary. Talk to me about how that made you feel. And the reason why you're upset right now with me is because that feeling is the boundary that is crossed. So I am going to apologize to you. I'm older, I'm your mother, but I'm going to apologize to you for crossing your boundaries, because I understand how important it is for them to be in a constant state of practice. If no one ever apologizes to them for crossing boundaries, if no one ever talks to them about principles, they will go out into the world and they will engage in toxic relationships, or they will be in toxic workplaces and not understand what's going on, constantly be in HR, constantly talking about their behavior, not understanding that a long time ago, their boundaries were crossed, but they were unfamiliar that they had boundaries. You know, so upholding my own standard, communicating that to the younger generation so that they can understand, no, you do have standards, you do have boundaries. This is why you're upset. And this is how you properly communicate your way through that.
I just want to check the framing. I'll be right back. Keep going. Keep talking. Keep talking.
And to my point, it's kind of along the lines of what you were saying. But I know we're talking about being, you know, strict or hard nosed with them sometimes, but a big part of leadership with the youth would be to call out what's in them. So I often will come across a kid that's a little rough around the edges, well, a whole lot of rough around the edges, and tell them, hey, you are really good at speaking. Did you know you could do that? Hey, you did this and it was awesome. You should do that more. And so then they're like, wow, I can do this. This is me. You mean to tell me that? And so then that calls out the leader in them, that calls out something in them that wants to hone in those skills, that would like to contribute more to society, whatever it is that we're telling them, but because they want to know that they're doing a good job. So, yeah.
Yes. That's awesome. Let me share this. In 2000, when the vision came to me for this mentoring program, you know, it didn't come right away because being in the community, I live in Southeast San Diego, and some may consider it the hood, but it's home to me.
There you go.
And I love it. You know, my whole family is still there. My sister lives across the street, my brother around the corner. But the thing is to find the youth today. They may be sagging, they may have kinky hair, but they have a gift. A lot of them have degrees you didn't even know they even have. They just don't fit the status quo, the stereotype. So that led me to open up to found In Motion Incorporation, and I do things behind the scene. It wasn't about me being out there. It was me going to them in the community. So I had to go and find them and interview them and just to see where they at, and you said it's some things, you don't know. You can see the gift in a person they don't see in themselves. I mentioned that to the young man here. People can see your gift, but you may not even recognize your gift. So and that led so many of the work that I've done and I still do is behind the scenes because it's not about me. It's about to uplift and to bring out that leadership in them. So I'm gonna say that.
Okay. Horrible. The very pause you wanted, we're gonna get a 5-minute pause because I want to get a second camera so that we can just get certain types of shots. But we can keep going but we're in a wide shot and I want close-ups.
I like that. And just to piggyback off of what you said, Mr. Sharp, and this is for everyone here at the table. How does appearance play a part in the leadership role?
As in attire and
appearance, hygiene.
I'm gonna point out that in chapter 6,
that's why we go
chapter
there.
6, we talk about the look and sound of a leader, but there's an even deeper thing beyond. All of us know how to be suited and booted. We all know how to show up and be well. No, you've clearly got it under control. The shade of gray that I would say about being suited and booted, though, is also being ready. Have you done your homework? Are you ready? When you get asked a question, did you do your research on the company that you are coming to engage with? Are you ready? Are you having eye contact? Are you scrolling through your phone? Are you taking advantage of the fact that people are there that you could change your life? I'll tell you, every day I ride on the elevator and I'm with these young people and they're all scrolling on their phones. And I think to myself, do you know, not like, do you know you're with me? But I think, do you know who's in the room? Do you know who's next to you? And what is the impression that you're making? And thinking about how you show up. So, having, and as my mother used to always say, it's not about having nice clothes. It's about being kempt and clean. You do your best with what you have. That's how you judge people. With that said, at the end of the day, how are you showing up? Do you smile? Do you engage? Do you make do people feel better after they've left you? That's what it's about in terms of showing up as a leader, in my humble opinion.
And you said it, Mr. Black. As far as your appearance and myself, I didn't lose the foundation I was brought up on. So I don't need to lose myself in order to show a young man or a young woman, their gifts, right? So for me to stand strong on my foundation, and I was just telling you, saying to Mr. Ken, hey, you know what? When I enter a room, I'm going to change the atmosphere. That's my mindset. I'm not going to go in there and receive. I'm going to receive, but I'm going to change the atmosphere. So whoever you come in contact, you need to be positive on what you do because it reflects who you are. And you can best believe if it doesn't happen right away, guess what? It will plant a seed, and then in due season, it'll reap.
Even in my current position, I still seek out, those who are in much larger positions than me. And a couple of years ago, I'm not going to name his name, but he's a big time executive in a pretty big corporation here in San Diego. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, I'm involved a lot. I'm sitting at all these tables and I'm the only one at these tables. Right. And so it's a blessing. The only black face, brown face at the table. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time. And so I asked him who, he had been in these spaces a lot. I said, I want to make sure that I represent, that I stay authentic in who I'm and myself. How do you maneuver around this landscape? And he said, Monty, he said, I have to do things differently. One, I always have to be prepared when I go to a meeting because they don't expect me to know. I need to know more than them. And I need, when the time comes, if I have an answer, I have an answer. And so I say all of that going back to chapter 6, because you can wear a nice suit or a nice dress at the boardroom table. But if you're not prepared, that good looking style goes out the window.
That's right.
Right. And so you get a double plus when you show up, and then you get another plus when you speak, when you know. And you don't have to speak if you don't know. You know, oftentimes we feel like we have to say something, but you don't always have to say something. The greatest leader is the one that listens, not the one that speaks. And Ebony will tell you, at my table, or at our table in our organization, I hardly ever say anything. I listen. And so when it's time to give leadership thoughts, they're listening, because I'm not always the one to have to say something. So referring back to chapter 6, look good, feel good, but you also have to be prepared.
I really like what you said.
And hang on one. Rob, you know, I'm all about the close-up, right? You're my personal hero. Hit it.
Don't mind me.
Hit it. And feel you, Rob, you can walk up, do what you got to do. Everyone understands. Thank you. Thank you, Zakina.
I really like what you said, because honestly, and Pastor Lynn can tell you, I'm probably the quietest one around. And you probably say, oh, she's talking a lot today. So I have something to say, but I am the quietest person around. So my leadership style is not loud, abrasive, or overtaken. It's one of modeling, but I wanted to really get into the idea of positional authority and actual leadership.
All right.
Because that's something that the young people, they really need to understand and learn. I can remember before I ever had a formal title of leadership, let's just say working in my organization, I knew people who wanted to get to the position I was in. And because they were brown people like me, I wanted to help them. So I would say, hey, Courtney, this is how you do this. I was always willing to share the information I had, because I knew people who would hoard the information. And so that's what we need to teach. We need to teach that you are a leader before you are a leader. You don't have to have the position title to be a leader, and you can operate in that leadership authority. It doesn't have to be loud. It can be quiet. It can be helping the next person climb, because believe me, if you're putting in to help other people, it's going to come back to you. It's always going to come back to you. So yeah, the idea of positional authority versus leadership, and letting these kids know, hey, you probably are a leader before you even recognize it.
You know, just in the preparedness, you know, immediately when Roosevelt said, you know, just how do you show up? My dad used to say, show up casket sharp.
Oh, wait a minute. Say it again for the cheap seats. You're rustling, so I didn't hear it. Say it one more time.
Say, you always show up casket sharp.
Casket sharp.
Casket sharp.
Ouch.
Casket
Ouch.
sharp.
Casket sharp.
My dad was a Mississippi guy, so
all
he
right
had all
now.
kind of sayings.
Casket sharp.
Speaking to the preparedness, and honestly, you know, us as Black folks, whether you're young, old, in the middle, we don't have the luxury of not being prepared. We don't have the luxury of not showing up, giving 110% at the table. When we get opportunities to be at the table, whether it's us creating our own table or sitting at someone else's table, we don't have that luxury to not be our best. And so going back to the preparedness that you and Inez and Monty mentioned, is we don't have that luxury. We don't get the second chances like folks who don't look like us. We have to show up prepared. So I would encourage young leaders to be prepared. If you don't know what to do, ask. And if you don't know what to ask, say I need help. Right? That's the quickest way to get a response especially out of the folks who's at this table, who's willing to lead by examples and lead with their resources. And so again, we just don't have that luxury. And so we have to be prepared. And I wanted to say that.
I want to speak to Roosevelt specifically about your beautiful son, who is the fourth. I met him the other day. He's looking handsome. You talked about wanting young Black in business to last 100 years. you're thinking about legacy and duration. Could you reflect on that for me just a little bit in terms of, from a leadership perspective, how important it is that we are thinking about who's coming after us?
Well, I first want to say I acknowledge that and I appreciate that. And second, I actually cried, this morning. Especially on my way here because I really wouldn't call myself a leader because you have to be able to serve and to be able to prove yourself and let others call you that. So with my son, I learned from these gentlemen right here. I just keep echoing that because in order to be a man, you must know a man. So when it comes to my son, he's going to know a man, and he's going to know how to tie a tie, fingernails clean, look a person in the eye. But most importantly, I'm just thankful that we have the spirit in my home because my wife is also has been an inspiration in that. And I would just say that I don't have kids. My son knows, my daughter knows they're not kids because in the Noah Webster dictionary, a kid is a goat.
Baby goat.
And they'll get sacrificed in this world. So they know that they're heirs. So we have a different way of, our vernacular is a little different, but they know that they get an inheritance. So it's bigger than just being a trust fund baby. They have to be able to show and demonstrate their airness. They have a responsibility because the price of greatness is responsibility. So back to myself and why I cried, I have great responsibility. And I have no one to call right now to ask for a loan. I have no one to call when I have a flat tire. I call AAA. I have to call myself. And if it all falls down, I have to blame myself. So really taking back to responsibility when it comes to that leadership role, especially in my household. But again, I just want to just commend the gentlemen that I'm here and the ladies as well, definitely being the power behind the shield. But as I was growing up, these are the gentlemen that I looked to that inspired me. But most importantly, I'll leave you with this. Consistency is the key to the combination. Every time I seen these gentlemen, they were consistent, positive mental attitude, on purpose, moving with passion. And if I didn't see them gentlemen on purpose, I would think the world's going to come to an end. So I commend them for being consistent with their message, with their posture, with their mindset, and really being service driven.
I want to talk about the role of sororities and fraternities in the development of leadership. And I'm going to pass it to two beautiful women at the table who are sorority women.
We're all three.
All three. Pardon me.
All three.
Pardon me. I'm the
three.
fourth beautiful woman at the table.
Yeah.
In a sorority. The role of leadership. And
you know what? I will grace them this honor to go first. Please, by all means, go first, you guys.
Well, leadership is the utmost importance in our organization. In any, we'll call it D9, the D9, and that's the historically Black fraternities and sororities. They strive for excellence in everything, and they set the expectation. And the expectation from off top. Okay. In the beginning. So, I can only talk about me doing it as an undergrad. That's my experience. It was, you're going through this process. Your grades better not drop. You better look the part. You better represent us well. We knew the expectations, and we knew we were to be leaders in the community. We knew we were to serve the community. And that's what it's about. A lot of times people think of, party. But honestly, our D9 fraternities and sororities, ours are not based on parties. So we don't want to get that confused. And I'm not throwing shade at any other fraternity. And
the non-D9.
I'm not throwing shade at the non-D9, but ours was brought out of a necessity to have our community served. And that's what we continue our legacy on. So with that said, leadership, they raise us to be leaders.
Absolutely.
They give us positions to be leaders. They send us to conferences to represent, to be a leader. So we all get positions to be in leadership. So they groom us for leadership, and they want to send us in the world so that we can be ready to serve and do what we need to do. Ours is service to all mankind. And in order to do that, at some level, you have to be a leader.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. I mean, we laugh and we joke about because we're in different sororities, but when it comes to what Lady Z said, it's spot on. You know, the moment that you are embarked upon that journey, and what we call crossing the burning sands, you take on the epitome of what your sorority and the D9 represents, and that's Black excellence, and that is service with passion and being grateful and humble, and leaders. You know, whether you want to be a leader or not, the moment you decide to be a part of it, you are a leader. And so we all have different colors and we wear different symbols, but we all have the same mission. Both of these ladies know that at any given moment, if something was to pop off, we got each other's back, regardless of what sorority we represent. And so just a matter of excellence is what is encouraged amongst. And again, we ain't got the luxury to not be excellent, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what the D9 is all about, Black excellence.
I think I would definitely like to add, especially as we talk about the youth and leadership, is that when it comes to the D9 or Greek life, there is a sense of accountability. There is a sense of trust. There's a sense that once I find out that there's a woman in leadership who's a part of D9, I don't doubt at all her capability. I know there's things getting done. There's things getting done quickly. There's things getting done to a certain standard. And if it's not, there's going to be big sisters that will be told. And that's where the accountability comes in, because we have this youth that is so engrossed in their cell phones. There's a deficit in social relationships, which means there's a deficit in accountability. So when you come up in an organization and it's so familial, and you have big sisters who are mentors, you're accountable to your big sisters. And this is a lifelong membership. Yes, I came through undergrad. Am I still talking closely to my sans, to my sisters? Yes, I am. Am I still talking to my big sisters? Yes, I am. If they catch word that I'm doing anything that is subpar or that I don't need to be involved in, even still to this day, the big sisters don't have any problem stepping in and making sure that we are reminded of who we are, the standard that we set. And that is something that is so important to the youth. You have to have someone that you can be accountable to, and the community needs to know, just like your family, don't disrespect the family name. Even to my son, I tell him, please don't go out there talking about you don't eat pepper. Please don't disrespect me. It's funny, but when you really think about it, we come from these families and we are our family's name. When we come from D9, we represent our organizations, and we will not ever disrespect our big sisters, our mentors, our founders. Never, ever will that happen. So accountability is so important.
Brittany, let me jump in, because I want to pivot a little bit to the military as well, because what we're really talking about is that for leadership opportunities for particularly Black people, that we have found areas where we're allowed to have some of that. And so I know I'm sitting with veterans all around me, and we have veterans in the room. And so I will pass it to this veteran first.
Again, another organization that I had the opportunity and pleasure to be a part of, and same message is, once you decide to take that oath, it doesn't matter what anybody's been through. It doesn't matter what they look like. You all become a leader in that instant moment, whether it's leading when you're on deployment, leading in combat, leading on a watch. It's just a different approach and a different mindset that you have to take on. And so you learn very quickly. Again, you are a representation of that brand. And to Brittany's point, your mama say, when you leave this house, you represent me, right? And so same thing for the military is, you didn't have the opportunity to mess up, especially a Black woman in the military, right? And so I had to lead by example. And many times we pulled in overseas, and I would hear some of my colleagues say, you know, Ebony, you're not gonna go out, you're not gonna go to the club, because that's what they were prone to do the moment they pull into ports. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go to this coffee shop, I'm gonna do some shopping and things like that. And so, you know, you have to stand out, especially when you're the minority in the organization.
No, it's very true. As an 18-year veteran, the military gives you a foundation right out the gate. Most people don't want to do it, and that's everyone. But what it gave me was an opportunity to lead early on. And there's no institution in the United States where an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old is leading a group of kids. And you and on a battleship, a warship, or doing military exercises, there's no place in no corporation in the United States where someone hands over a 20-year-old the keys to 20 other sailors to lead. You learn very quickly how to lead and how to get people to do things you need to get done within a timely manner. And what the military does is provide a platform for you to excel in whatever job you choose. Not everyone does it, but the ones who make it a career understands that in order for me to, advance in the military, you have to work hard and you have to show up on time. That's all. That's the two main things. Show up on time and do your job, right? And if those skill sets, run through you and after military life, you'll be successful. And you look at most veterans who come from that structure, they generally look for structure the same as the military. And this the work ethic that you gain from that stays with you a lifetime. So
yeah, I just want to acknowledge the veterans that's watching and that are in the room as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that acknowledgement. We're going to do a strange thing. We're going to keep rolling, but here's the thing. Audience, you said to yourselves, we weren't going to get to say anything. We're not, you still don't get to say anything, but what you're going to get to do is, are there questions that have come up for you? Are there areas as you've been listening that you would like to see us touch upon? Otherwise, we'll keep on rocking. Yes, please.
The question I have
And it's Pearly, is that right?
Correct. One of the things, and I heard everyone speak about the young Black men, what process is in place here in San Diego to help them develop? I know they have a lot of different foundations and, different organizations, but is there a process when they're open positions on city council for them to, the youth to, apply for and get into? Who's there to help them with those type of processes to get them, established into the county of San Diego to help them with their process of success?
Can you speak to that, Roosevelt? Because I don't have the answer.
Well, I think there's a number of different. First of all, there's a number of different organizations.
Yeah, repeat the question.
The infrastructure, the organization that's out there to help young Black men in particular break into different industries, whether it's politics or whatever. There's a number of different organizations out there, but you have to seek them out. One of them, I will say, they've been around forever, and he's a good friend of mine. The Urban League has a great Project Ready program. Logan Heights CDC has an amazing juvenile diversion program. Neighborhood House have programs. I know when I was coming up, and Roosevelt was the recipient of this, being in Tony Young's office when he was at City Council. George Stevens used to allow interns. Matter of fact, after I won Mr. Black San Diego, I did a 6-month stint in Councilman George Stevens' office. That's where I learned. That's where I got, I say, my chops, because, I got projects, I got things to do. And a lot of times it's just opening your doors and saying, an internship will get you started. Here's the problem with internships. Internships are not like they used to be. Internships, I would say, just give me an opportunity. I want to learn essentially for free because there was no money then. Now folks want paid internships. And, if an employer going to pay you, they're going to want a full-time staff person. And so List AmeriCorps is another one where you can get it done. That's a paid internship. So there's different things, and I might be leaving some out, Ebony, so help me out. But those are the ones I know when it comes to Black men, Urban League, Neighborhood House, Logan Heights CDC, and there might be some others, but those are the ones that has historically, primarily Urban League and Neighborhood House, that has traditionally support the Black family and primarily the Black males.
You need the mic if you want to talk, but Zakina has the floor, then it's yours.
I see you, Kenny. I know your question was to Black boys or Black men, how do they get into that arena? But I want to speak to the Black women. When I first arrived in San Diego, Dr. Shirley Weber, she had a program called Be Wild, Black Women Leadership Institute, and I was able to be in her inaugural class. And so that class, the whole year, it walked you through every step of how to get into politics, commissions, boards, if that's what you wanted to do. And it formed a tight-knit group. It took you to all these different places so that you can meet different people in politics, so that if that was your path, then you could take it. So I would say, even if there's not an organization, there is so many things politically going on. If you just show up, you'll meet somebody. But there are some great programs. And I must say that program that Dr. Shirley had, it was excellent. And so I'm still in communication with a lot of my classmates from that. And so every year they did it. And then I was able to suggest other people to it. So, yeah.
I think when it comes to, I struggle with the same thing, not being from San Diego, not born and raised here, brought here as a implant by the military. It's like, where's the Black folks? Like, where are they at, right? And I'm from an area where you didn't have to seek them out. They were there, right? They were at our fingertips. And you knew about all the Black events by just someone just saying, oh, we didn't have social media, so it wasn't through social media. But I think that's where it's complicated in San Diego. And I think Lady Z saying you do have to seek it out here. Some of the groups that I'm familiar with that focus on Black men, I think Rise is one. I know the CEO there, who's really worked on building up the program, and Dominique, and Blue Heart Foundation. Those are some great agencies and organizations that are doing great work. But to your point, you have to seek those things out. And I think that's why this conversation, I was going to say combination, that's why this conversation and this collaborative is so vital, because coming together like this sparks that conversation and dialogue that we shouldn't have to seek these things out. They should be available and relative to our fingertips when we're raising up Black leaders, to the point of young leaders are not going to come to us, right? And so we have to make a space available for them to be comfortable and willing to have a dialogue. And so we have to seek them out versus them seeking us.
That's great. And Pearlie, that's a great question, because when I founded In Motion mentoring one team impacts our neighborhood, and the concept of that was the one-on-one mentorship. Is one may want to be an entrepreneur, one may want to be an athlete, so it was directed one-on-one when it's speaking about In Motion one-on-one, and I encouraged, and I wish that, and I got the concept, I must say, through I don't know if you remember the Reggie program. It was a regional program back in the day that they allowed youth like myself. I was a dental assistant at 15, so they would bring it to the school, Lincoln High School, and then they would find you a summer job. So that's the concept. But then manpower came. So they were temporary. And that's where the concept really came into my mind. It's like, man, I need to bring these resources to the community. And that's where it needs to go. It still need to be seeking out those who are in need, because a lot of people still live in the community and they do not have the access to the resources. So we still must do that. And I encourage any mentor person or women or whoever group, is to go and bring the resources to the individual.
I think going back to your question, Pearlie, in regards to how do we create that centralized hub where it's essentially a resource. And I think I have to give a shout out to Black San Diego, who has tried to create that. I know there's been some things in the past. I didn't grow up here, so I know Monty has mentioned about, Eddie Price, and who has tried to create these centralized areas where Black people can find the resource at their fingertips. And so I think what you're asking is very crucial. I think it's a good question. And how do we bring those things back? How do we make it? We're a small percentage of this city, right? Of this state, right? And so I think it's how do we bring back those resources where they're relatively available to the communities that we want them to go to.
Kenny, what's your question? And then Thomas, I see you.
My question, can someone speak to what kind of led into this, what you're saying? Can someone speak to the disparities in funding sources, which are, historically, low here in San Diego? When you, like you said, to your point, we're less than 3% here in the population, and we're not even registering 1% on the amount of funds that are being distributed in this region.
I don't know that this is the context for that, since we're talking about development of leadership.
We're talking about leadership,
Right.
and you have a leader that has no funding. How can you lead?
Fair. I'll take it away.
Go ahead, Monty.
Hadn't been in this space a while, and it took us a long time to get where we are financially. We had $0 for many years, and then the mountaintop just kind of fell off on funding, where it flowed out. A lot of that's because we stayed consistent to the message, to the mission. It's easier to do the job when you have money. The hardest part is doing the job when you don't have the money. So you have to continue if you want to make an impact. And I worked 10 years without taking a penny, right? And so you have to believe in your mission, and you got to stay the course. And you have to, there's long days and long nights. You have to be at these events. You have to be visible. But at the most part, you got to work without the money. Unfortunately, we have to do that. Everyone don't get to do that, right? So if you want the funding to come, and this is true, 1, work hard without the money. 2, partner with folks and get out there. The money will come. And I'm a true believer, and Ebony will tell you this, if you work hard without the money eventually show up. And then you have to have people who buy into your mission, who want to be beside you and work without the funding as well. Because if you can grow that core group of people, the money eventually will come. And it's going to, sometimes it takes a long time. For us, it took us 15 years. But we stayed true with just a handful of us, and we worked, we had 2-3 pages of accounts payable, but when we got to a point, we invested in the organization, we invested in the people, and we just let it grow from there.
Yes, that's it. You have to work, because I started the In Motion Incorporation in 2000. It took 10 years. And a lot of that come out of your own pocket. So, and because that's the passion in it. But then I found out later on, and I know some people don't like nonprofits, but then that opened the door to a lot of funding. And yes, there's stipulations, but you have to change the language in what you're looking for when it comes to grants. The money is there, but they're not going to tell you that the money's there. You got to go get it. So that's, that right there, that door, that is a possibility as far as a leader to get funding. They have the 501c3, 501c4, but there's different ones, and depending on what you are. But again, in the language, what you put by applying for the grant, you could put that language in there, and hey, you know what, it works.
So with that, Gianna, can you go get Chris and ask him to come say hello? Thomas, what's your you have a question?
The question I have is, I think my question is, how do you get all of the organizations that you mentioned, all of them, to start working together to assist the community versus
everybody puts their ego aside,
yes, that's
and it's crabs in a barrel,
right.
and
My
that's
question is, how do we get that to stop? We've been here 25 years.
perfect. Chris Lewis. Hello, everyone. This is Chris Lewis. This is his company, Team Lewis. Chris, thank you for hosting us today. Just wanted to say, have you come and say hello to everyone. And
Can we get, I was gonna say, can I get up? Can I hug him?
you can hug him.
Okay. You know you run a tight ship, Inez.
Oh, come on.
I know you run it.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you. Hey, nice to see you. Hey, I don't get anything from you. Look at that.
I get nothing.
Nice to see
I'm
you.
on a schedule.
Hello, hi, how are
You know
you?
she's the timekeeper.
I'm on a schedule.
How you doing? How you doing? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Come on.
Chris, he's from London. He's from London.
I'm sorry about that.
Yes, and ready?
Nice.
Where's the deal?
And he's not related to the royal
Yes,
family.
he's not related to the royal family.
He keeps accusing me of being Wallace from Wallace and Gromit.
Exactly. So there it is.
Everybody can see I'm more Gromit than I'm Wallace.
Yeah, there you are. So that's all. I just wanted everyone to see this extraordinary person who partnered on this book and who really has changed my life for the better. So thank you, Chris.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for giving me the time to come in today as well. And we built this, people sometimes say, why you're building offices when people don't want to go to the office anymore. And it's really important because when you've got a space that people come together, you can have a community. If they can't come together, there's no community.
Exactly.
And this is something it's really important to not just us as professionals, but all of us, because if they can single you out, cut you off, separate you, they can defeat you. And we all know in military training, people, they try to isolate people and they put them in solitary confinement to break them down. And you can't do that when you've got a group of people together, because the only way you can beat that type of fear is with the fellowship that comes from being in the same space together, physically alongside each other. And that really matters. And these days, when everybody's so atomized, people kind of forget about those things. You know, is that you don't need this to work that out. You need this to recognize that you're part of the same thing here.
Yeah.
And you can't see that unless people can gather together. So it really matters that people can gather together. So this space is your space.
Well, thank you.
Come in whenever you want. And it's really important to us because you've got to, at this particular time, there's a lot of people who are frightened, a lot of people in fear, who are feeling lonely, and they think that the world's not on their side, and you're not alone. So just remember that.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. All right.
I'm sorry, she doesn't like me stealing her.
Yeah, carry on. Thank you, Chris.
Bye, Chris.
You do realize she lives her life in a musical.
Yes. Which they're going to be privy to in 5 minutes. So shoo. Today it's the sound of music.
Oh my God!
Goodbye.
I love the sound of music.
Goodbye.
I love this.
Bye. Okay. All right. So,
but I think Chris answered the question. And to your question of how do you bring all of these organizations together? And historically, that's what society has created, where to Inez's point, saying the crab in the barrel mentality. When people, I tell Monty this all the time, we can't get upset how we were trained to behave, right? So we have to change the behavior, but changing the behavior means time, right? It means practice. It means you got to do it repetitively, right? And so bringing us together to have these conversations of why we have the crab in the barrel mentality is important. We can't ignore what society and history has created amongst Black culture, right? That's not a bad thing. It's just practice we have to change, right? And so we have to have that conversation, come together and say, why do I want more? Why is my ego bigger than yours, right? And that's oftentimes we don't want to talk about the nasty stuff, right? We always want to talk about, in the words of Monty, the sexy things, right? But we got to have those hard conversations. Why do we have that mindset? And we got to change in how we practice it.
Brittany's going to have the last word, folks, because we are at time.
the
So
hour.
take it away.
Okay, so this is definitely a question we get all the time. I definitely have a different perspective. One of the reasons why I wanted Young Black and in Business to be accountable to its network versus its donors is because I wanted us to be able to compete at a high level and be able to deliver the resources that our network actually wanted. And for any business that's out there, you have to respond to the customer. You have to respond to the market. And I wanted us to be responsive to the market. One thing I don't hear people asking is why aren't all of these organizations delivering at an extremely high level? When you are operating in a for-profit space and you're operating within the market, you have to dominate. You have to be competitive. So one of the reasons why I like working alongside Roosevelt is because he honestly, truly is the bleeding heart of the organization. I am not. And I also don't mind not being the bleeding heart because I want to make sure these doors stay open. I want to make sure these resources are delivered. And I want to make sure that our customers and the market are getting exactly what they want. I personally don't have a need to work with everyone. Either you want to be the best or you want to stay where you are. So the question I really want to ask is why aren't all of these organizations trying to dominate? If they were trying to dominate, then we will be getting the resources that we need and we will be forced to collaborate. That's what I really want to talk about. And that's exactly who I am.
Hello.
Brittany, on that note, we say thank you all. And in the spirit of the Sound of Music, so long, farewell, Avida, and goodbye. All right. Anyway, this has been really lovely. And we're so happy that we've had a chance to host you all. And it's really been a really good conversation. And we'll go from there because now they're going to transfer it so you can take the drive. All right. Everybody give yourselves a round of applause.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
What a dynamic conversation moderated by Brittany Miller and Roosevelt Williams on The Modern Leader. Thank you so much, you all, for joining Inspirational Legacy, Past, Present, Future. Brittany, what a phenomenal job you did as part of that conversation and facilitating and really talking about what it means to be in a team and the roles of the team and how people can contribute. I think that was a really interesting point that you made at the end that I don't want to understate. Brittany, would love to share your reflections on that conversation that you and Roosevelt had on The Modern Leader as we close out today. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon right after Brittany's closing remarks. We'll see you next time.
Yes, definitely. That conversation involved different perspectives. We had insight from the Black Church. We had insight from members of the Black Divine Nine, Black Greeks. We had insight from Black nonprofit leaders. All of those different organizations work directly to help uplift small and emerging underserved business owners. So they don't necessarily have to be Black, but they just need to be in an underserved area. So one of the reasons that Team Lewis really hosted us to put this conversation together is so that we could take a look at what do we need to do to nurture and to cultivate the next generation of leaders. So I definitely want to thank Team Lewis and make sure everyone knows that the Rebellious Leader is out now. That is what we based that conversation on. And what we did is we took different chapters of the book to highlight different areas that we could nurture and cultivate the next generation of youth. I think with the varying age groups, you were able to see the different lessons that we learned and how we passed down those lessons. So I want to thank everybody who was on the panel. I want to thank Team Lewis for hosting us, for providing us wonderful content, and for giving us an opportunity to reach everyone on a global scale and really talk about, yes, Black leadership is in transition. The revolution is being televised, but it is being passed down from one generation to the next. So what does that look like? What do we need to do? And what message do we need to pass down to those coming after us?
Thank you so much, Brittany, and to all the leaders that joined us today. Until next time, you're here with the Los Angeles Tribune, and we will see you soon.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.